Welcome to Planning Phase Syndicate, episode 112. Can Darth Vader defend himself? And let's talk about Turn Zero placement. Welcome, everyone, to episode 112. Tonight, we have a special guest joining us in a few minutes. But before we get to that, what we wanted to do is just kind of talk a little bit about Turn Zero. So we decided after we concluded our List Archetype segment, we do some smaller segments so that we bite off a little bit less than we can chew. And what we do is we're going to be having a conversation about Turn Zero placement tonight, as well as covering a few store championships that happened this week. With that being said, let's bring in our special guest for tonight. Please welcome to the show the ex-Rebel and future Empire Overlord, Nick Sperry from 312 Squadron. How are you doing tonight, sir?
Good, man. Still feeling like a sellout when it's switching factions like that, but it seems to have worked out.
It does work out a little bit in your benefit, given that you made top 4 at Gen Con and went 5-0 on your day and pulled out a store champ win.
Yeah. With month. Rebels, I have 0 Worlds invites, and with Empire in like a month, I have 2. So, sure.
So good on you for that. Also, thank you for the Prime subscription. If anybody would like to follow suit, you're welcome to throw Prime subscriptions our way. If you don't want to, no big deal. As always, my other co-host, the bench warmer, who came off the bench today to win a store champ last night. Alex, how are you tonight, sir?
I'm doing okay. I do appreciate that Nick's sold out playing the most popular faction to play not a popular faction.
Apparently. I thought they were pretty popular.
And as always, the one and only JJ still doesn't have his store champ invite and lost every ship in his combine game. The new Lions fan that we have here tonight, Mr. JJ Gridiron. How are you tonight, sir?
So notice that as soon as, I got, sent to now wear Lions gear, I had my worst game on stream ever. I truly played like a Lion player.
Yeah, that tracks.
So, I just feel like it's becoming part of my identity now, being a Lions fan.
No, I don't know the true Lions fan because you lost all 5 ships in 8 shots. That's what the Lions fan feels like.
I don't know, man. I'm hoping that I get my invite at Nova. If not, there's another championship store champ coming up here in Columbia, South Carolina that I'm going to probably go to, which would be the following week after Nova. So hopefully, 2 chances to get a store or a World's invite. Hope that I get one of those.
Well, awesome. Well, tonight we decided to have Nick on. We haven't had Nick on. It's probably been like 4 or 5 months since Nick's been on. It's got to been, at least 4 or 5 months, I think, since we had you on last, Nick.
It's been a long time, yeah. I was supposed to be on last week, and then I just dropped the ball. So thanks for letting me back on this time.
Yeah, no problem. It's always fun to have a fellow join us from the stream community. I can't talk tonight, but the community that we all hang out with. So,
a fellow Midwesterner.
Yes. There you go.
Congrats, Alex, on the store champ win. By the way, I didn't know you won.
Just wait until you see the list, and then you're gonna just look at me horrified.
Oh gosh,
that is very true.
As did all your opponents. They looked at you horrified.
Oh, every single one of them was just like, "Yeah, I don't know what's going on. We'll just play a game. Just tell me what happens eventually."
Yeah, so I think we could kind of kick the show off. I think there was originally a discussion on which Vader is the best Vader, and I think for the first segment, kind of what I wanted to do is talk just a tiny bit about different Vader play styles and if there is a superior Vader list versus a non-superior Vader list, as well as kind of talking about what do we do for counters. So, given Nick's run and publicity, there's a high probability we will see more of that Empire list, which we usually do. But after a big tournament, we see the top list kind of be mimicked and copied, and that's not a bad thing, right? Like that's okay. I think the big thing though is if you are going to run that and no other people are, it might be a good discussion to have to say, hey, what counters the list, or what do you do when you encounter a clone of the list specifically? So, to begin with, we have the version that Nick ran, and then JJ has offered up a version that he kept changing on me, and it looks pretty close to Nick's version, but originally JJ had made a statement a couple weeks ago saying that there is other viable Vader lists out there. Yeah. So why don't we kind of begin with, Nick, what is the list that you brought to a couple of championships and won with?
Yeah. So I brought the list is called Vader and the Fives is what I called it, but at Gen Con it was officially called Nick Sperry a sellout, just because I was playing. And I'll tell you why I thought I was a sellout in a second, but it's headed by starter set Vader, which has the same ability as the 7-point customizable Vader, but he's only 6 points. He's got a built-in shield upgrade, so he's got 3 shields, 3 hull. He's got hate, afterburners, and ion missiles. So this is a standardized card that you can only find in the like $80 new core set, Imperial core set that came out with the
good
4
old
ships.
pay to win Vader.
Pay, literally what people have been calling it, and it makes me feel horrible when I hear that. And that's a whole nother basket, can of worms to open. But and then the rest of the list is 4 5s. It's Tomax, which is the new, hot and heavy I5 3-point, tons of loadout TIE bomber that was just put in standard. It's he's got barrage rockets, sat salvo, and bomblets, of course. And then you've got the boys. It's Backstabber and Mauler. For those of you not familiar with them, they have an extra hull, which is wild because they do not feel like TIE fighters with an extra hull. They got 4 hull. They're both I5. Backstabber's 4 points. Mauler is 3. Backstabber is crack shot, disciplined, and afterburners. And then Mauler has predator and afterburners. So crack shot makes Backstabber an extra point. So he's the 4-pointer. As long as they're within, they're at range 0 to 1 of each other in their side arcs. They have each other in their side arc or Vader. They can roll an additional attack die. They can go real fast and get in people's faces and do a lot of damage. And then Merrick Steele is the 4-point. People at this point, they have 4 points to play with. Who do they fill the list in with? I chose Merrick because, honestly, the main reason why I picked Merrick was because he's a crit converter, which is very important in this game right now. And also really just because he's one of my all-time favorite pilots dating back to 2.0. So I just really wanted to play him at 4 points. I thought he was great value. And his ability has been huge in 75% of my games. So shield upgrade and fire control makes him harder to kill. And when you do lose him, you don't feel that bad because he's cheap.
Well, what's funny? So I think I played on your stream, I don't know, 3 months ago, and you got to pick some of the pilots, and one of them was Merrick Steele. And that was back when Merrick was 5 points. So you must be super ecstatic at 4 points.
Yeah, I mean, with 10 loadout, I mean, people. I think the question I get asked the most about the list is why not afterburners, and it's because I think afterburners makes him feel a little bit more predictable, and he dies much faster. That extra shield is just such a big deal.
Yeah, my only question was why not marksmanship? You just have FCS.
He doesn't need it. What's really weird? This is a bizarre thing to say, but I roll crits very often.
Oh, lucky you!
Like very often. I've played hundreds and hundreds of X-Wing games, and so I've never felt like I really needed it with him. I like it on him, but I don't need it. He gets 1 guaranteed, right? You get a range 1 shot. The odds of you rolling a crit naturally are fairly high, like high enough. So typically he gets like 2 crits at range 1.
I played an entire salvage game and never rolled a crit.
Well, this list is great against salvage for sure.
I can definitely see that.
So that's the list. It's the flexibility. The biggest thing about this list is coming from a guy playing Rebels when things were expensive. When I was playing 6-point T65s and Han was 8 points and all that stuff. I'm not used to playing a list where ships are cheap. Almost the entire list is dirt cheap. Vader's the only one you really just don't want to lose unless it's like the right time. But like it never felt crippling when I would lose Tomax or I'd lose Mauler, or even if I trade Merrick a lot, and it was like, sure, it's fine.
Yeah, and I think that's like the big thing people talk about, right? Like is was Empire going to lose efficiency once they started nerfing some of those, but they left Vader alone. And then they gave us Merrick, and they didn't touch Juno. And so there's a whole discussion for that piece of it, right? And I think, giving us a couple of other cheaper ships to make 5-ship list is kind of where AMG wanted that sweet spot to go. In my opinion, that's what it kind of feels like. So, yeah.
And everyone forgot about the boys. Everyone just stopped playing it since.
Yeah, well, the bombers came out, and I was getting in arguments where they're like, I don't think they're good enough. I'm like, you think they're good enough now? You think they're good enough now? Yeah, they were.
Yeah, I don't know why people just super jumped off of it.
I think it's because they didn't know how to fly. They're not the easiest to fly, but they're easy enough for me, and I never fly formation flying. Like, that's not my thing, and I was able to make it work.
Yeah, and like when I was running them, I didn't feel that they were that big of a deal in terms of not being able to fly them. But I think the bigger thing is people just don't like that you with the mod you get, right, and this and that. And Backstabber, so Backstabber being 4 points makes that combo 7 points versus, only a 6-point combo. But I think in your list you don't really need it. I mean, if you had 1 extra point, where would you put it? Would you upgrade Vader to the 7-point Vader, or would you upgrade Tomax, or what would you do with that?
I don't know. If I had 5 points, I mean, it would be tempting to slot Soontir in there if you had an extra point, because then you'd have 2 I6s. But no, I don't know. I think the list gets thrown off if there's an extra point of wiggle room. The thing with the boys is that the real issue with this list is that if you have like a really bad dice game, like really bad, you're gonna feel it. Like, I had a couple of games where Tomax is rolling like 2 blanks on his barrage rockets, and it's just because they're cheap, I don't feel as bad. But the ties, they just need to be able to roll decent greens, and then because you're going up against like Arc 170s and like larger base ships with lower agility, you can still you'll be able to compensate for maybe your attack dice not being as great. But it's just keeping them alive for a few turns. So.
Fair enough. So let's move on to JJ's list. JJ, what is your version that looks like you kind of stole from Nick here?
So this is a variant of the list that I flew for the Richmond Open. This one is Vader with the same Vader, the SSB Vader, Tomax Bren, same loadout, Merrick Steel with the marksmanship that I shot in Afterburners, Lieutenant Lorare with Lone Wolf and targeting computer, and then Vizier with Captain Hark and Seven Sister. Now, originally, in my original list I had for Richmond Open, I had Boy Vader with Mauler in this list, and then Juno Eclipse, which were like my top 3 ships I would go in there to go to the attack. Now I swapped over to this particular variant because the bombers were very, very good. And I felt, the combination of the barrage rocket with saturation salvo was good. I've actually currently right now my XTC list that I have Vader Soontir with 2 bombers with sat salvo and barrage rockets. But ultimately I decided just to go for the 1, and specifically Tomax, mainly because he has that I5 that can go in and attack and stuff. However, I've been kind of, at least for my style of playing, for me, the outlier for me is Tomax, because there's times where he has to choose a lot of times to spend that focus in order for him to live or not take a chain of crits that can come through, and that severely diminishes his output. So I've actually been considering going back to just having Mauler on there, since he can reliably keep up with Vader and have those that 3-die attack, and having 3 agility also does help as well, to be a little more resistant to taking damage more than the bombers can. But in regards to Merrick still, I did specifically choose Afterburners and marksmanship, mainly because the name of this list, that what I called it, is called Shock and Awe, which is just a list that wants to disrupt your list on turn 1, to force an engagement as early as possible, to prevent your formation from setting up any type of formation, so that way they can get ready and have a good engagement the next turn. This list is meant to go in as hard as possible first, and then have the rest of my other ships, either Laurier and Vizier, to claim objectives and everything, while you're dealing with this massive front that I've just put in aggressively against yours, and win the objective game that way. And that's how I've kind of ran this particular list. Obviously, Tomax can't really do that. The fastest a TIE bomber can go is a 4 straight. So you're typically not getting a first round 1 engagement if you're going with a bomber, as most people tend to try to slow play a little bit, or slow roll, just to make sure that they can set up their formation correctly. Tomax can't really take advantage of that on turn 1. So I've been messing around with different variations of this list, but this is kind of the most similar of what I've ran in Richmond Open.
How frequently do you coordinate with Vizier in that list?
It's situational. I tend to coordinate a lot. Vizier's sneakiness is quite good, actually. Usually I tend to coordinate Marek Steel a lot to get him double modded when I need him to. But the majority of Vizier's role is to go in and jam and disrupt as much as possible. Being able to have the jam action and then get yourself into location where you can block an opponent, and then hopefully use Seven Sister to jam another target, or potentially tractor a target into a position where Vader and everybody else can get into a more advantageous position, is really, really good. I would almost always trade Vizier if I can take out one of your high initiative aces half the time. And if you're taking shots into Vizier and the rest of my aces are healthy, I would gladly take that trade.
All right. So now it begs the question, is there a superior Vader?
Yeah, absolutely. There's no question about it.
All right. Which one is superior, Nick?
Okay, so the existence of the starter set Vader makes 7-point Vader, I mean, without sounding mean, just kind of pointless to take. Unless you just are at the game store and you just can't, you don't have the materials to play the 6-point version of, Battle of Yavin or starter set Vader, which is the superior one. Why? Well, starter set Vader has all the tools that a 7-point Vader would want, including with the shield upgrade and stuff, right? Has the same ability, which is really why you would take 7-point Vader. Now that they have the same ability, if it was different, like Battle of Yavin Vader versus 7-point Vader, when those were the only 2 options, there was a stark difference. It's like, one is pure aggro for dealing a lot of damage, taking locks every turn, relying on the force. The other one is much more more nimble, can be more flexible, but doesn't have as much health. But you pay the price for it with that extra point. Now that the starter set Vader exists, he has everything that the 7-point Vader needs and wants. He is a point cheaper, and he can. The biggest thing is objective play. So if I'm playing starter set Vader, I can 5 straight afterburners, claim the crate, like in salvage mission. I can spend a force to focus. I can spend a force to take a lock, and I can deal damage, take a meaningful shot, have defensive mods to back me up still, have the objective on me, and potentially knock off the crate all at the same time. Battle of Yavin Vader can't do that. He can only lock. If he's taking the scenario action, he is not dealing any damage. He's dealing just a 2-dice gun. Maybe he's probably getting 2 hits every time, but it's not enough. He's like a TIE fighter when he has to play the objective. And then he's force starving himself. The first shot coming into him, he has no good defensive mod to back him up. And then he just takes a lot of damage early on.
Yeah, and those ion missiles are sneakily
yes.
actually useful.
Somebody looked at me at Gen Con. I was setting it up, and they're like, "Do you ever use the ion missiles?" I'm like, "Yes." Mm-hmm. On Whispers, on Delta 7B Anakins at range 3, on Arc 170s on one hole, whatever. If I just need to limit the range bonus, if I need to take away the extra die, they're amazing on Whispers, though, man. Because
I'm sure anything that has target locks. Like Proton, Boy Luke shooting you or something, right?
Against top 4 game, I ionized Luke. He had a double modded Pro Torp into one of the boys, and I just fired an ion missile at him, knocked off the lock, And I mean, the game went south and for different reasons, but I was like, it was a cheeky move, and it's a great control. It's a control piece. Ion Tech has always been about control, but with Vader, it's about guaranteeing things, like guaranteeing a kill, limiting the range bonus. With Whispers, you know, they get an extra die if there's a jam ship in the attack arc, or if there are no green tokens that the attacker has. So what Vader will do is he'll take the lock, do the focus thing, and then he'll spend his force for the attack, keep the focus, so they only get the two greens, and most likely they'll roll a blank and get ionized.
So,
Yep.
So I think it's funny when we first starter pack Vader, we were like, who cares? Why would anybody ever run it? But if you actually take his loadout and build it in 7 points, Vader, it's the same, except for you get ion missiles, like as a free bonus. So you get like free? Is it 3 points or 4 points? Whatever it is. They're 4 points. So you get free 4 points, and it costs a whole point cheaper to run.
Yeah.
So,
I had a game.
It's the same.
I had a game against Marcel. Marcel is one of the best players in the country, and I know him very well. He lives here. And he was playing his Republic list that he just won a store champ with. And it's a great list. And he had to win the game. He had to turn Anakin in. Anakin had taken a few shots, had ended up on one hull. And I fired an ion missile at him to make sure that I killed him to win the game. Like, that was the win condition for me, was to just finish off Anakin. And it was just like, if I didn't have that, you know, definitely a chance he just rolls paint and survives.
Yeah, assuming that was a range 3 shot, right?
It was, it was a range 3 shot. Yeah. So just make sure it's 3-on-2 mathematically, just ensure that you get the kill. Yeah, I mean, those instances, an ion missile is not the sexiest thing, and Vader's firing is primary, I want to say about 90% of the time, but it is very powerful, and yeah, it's got good utility.
So the next question then, because you do get all the other extra actions, right? So you get all these other actions, but you do lose missing, turning the blank to a hit, right?
Sure.
So is that payout? Does that payout ever seem to happen where you go, fuck me large, I wish I had the, the one where I could just spend a force and get my free hit?
Well, I guess in this game, like, who else but Vader gets to do that? Like, no one else is able to play with that kind of tech anyways, unless it's like a Ruthless or something. But like, not 99% of the time, no one's. It's just a target lock focus or force, like double modded, classic old double modded shot. So, Vader having a target lock and focus or force is almost always a guarantee. Like, it feels like it. When you don't get it, you're like, oh, that sucks. But I mean, I don't think there was one instance in the like 15 games or so that I've played with this list now, hasn't been that much, where I'm like, man, I wish I had Battle of Yavin Vader, because I know Battle of Yavin Vader is a trap because he 4-starves himself and then ends up dying, and he's the same cost. So it's just, yeah. I mean, that's a good point, but that ability, I mean, nothing beats Vader Defender's ability. It's like a cheat code, but it's like too good, and it's at the expense of any flexibility in your list, because Vader can never scramble. He can never take the crate because he has to be taking locks to deal damage. This one can do it all.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, when I was running Battle of Yavin Vader for Richmond Open, that definitely was one of the pitfalls of Vader, is that you end up spending so much force on offense that unless you have a coordinating ship that can provide Vader with that backup focus for just in case, it got really hard for Vader to consistently like keep up that pace when you're trying to like gun down different ships there. With the SSP Vader, I mean, it's just
and he has hate, JJ. SSP
Yeah,
Vader has hate. Why does he hate? It's so
exactly.
unfair.
Now, the one thing I will say that SSP Vader does not have that you can get in that 7-point Vader is Pattern Analyzer. And I got to say that combo of Pattern Analyzer with Vader being able to do a Talon roll and then Pattern Analyzer in action and then just use his force to continue the action chain after he does a red maneuver is, in my opinion, still very, very worth it. When I faced off against Duncan Howard in the final at Richmond Open, he used that to very, very good effect, being able to still get his mods in when he needed to. He was able to constantly spend his target locks and focus when he needed to, or afterburners boost afterwards.
He could take fire control, right?
Yeah, exactly. And you can still be very, very accurate. So there is still a place in some Empire lists for that version of Vader because he is still even more efficient than the SSP Vader is.
Yeah.
But SSP Vader just opens up that 1 point, which allows for better ships to be part of that list.
He's efficient enough. Like the SSP is efficient enough to win. 7
Mhm.
point Vader. I mean, so Tanner, you asked me about wishing I had Boy Vader's ability. I wish I had fire control sometimes, because having to like spend the lock every single time or half the time I'm taking a shot, that kind of sucks. Like ultimately, you just take a lock again when you need it, but being able to maintain a lock, 7 point Vader can take fire control. The lack of fire control with both of the 6 pointers is definitely very apparent. I mean, Merrick has it in my list, and I love when I'm able to use it, hold on to a lock.
Well, and I think it's like the Predator discussion, right? Like if you have Predator, right? Like if you can line that bullseye up at I6, you get Predator off. It's like a free reroll. That's what fire control is. And fire control is 2 points. It's insanely cheap.
Yeah, and you just need a lock. You don't even have to have him in bullseye. Just have the lock.
That's it. And I have. It's funny because I've used that before with fire control, where I'll just I won't re-roll all the dice. I'll roll 3 dice and I'll roll 1 hit and 2 blanks to just re-roll the 1, and then turn around and go, oh, hey, guess what? I'm gonna keep it for next turn because it doesn't matter this turn. I'm not gonna kill you. If I'm gonna kill you, I'll do it. If not, I'm just gonna keep it for next turn, and it's a double-modded shot now. And now you have to run away from me or get the hell away from me because I'm just gonna double-modded shot. But,
yeah. The threat is also so that you're talking about the threat factor, like how threatening that shot is. SSP Vader is always so threatening still because of afterburners. I think one of the mistakes they made with designing that Battle of Yavin Vader and the starter set Vader is that they have 2 overlapping upgrades. SSP Vader shouldn't have hate for sure because he can have force and focus all at once for defense/offense. And then afterburners is the one if there is no afterburners on starter set Vader, it's a non-starter. You do end up playing something else because that is such a strong being able to pounce on something, being able to get out of a shot, get distance from a bomb, get within range of a scenario. You can't beat it.
You could do a 4K and afterburners back in, right?
Yep.
So
be out of a shot, have the lock already on the target I need to shoot at, boost, and then have the shot, and then I could fire an ion missile or a primary, whatever I want to do.
Yeah. Well, we run into that with and I think they went happy-go-lucky with afterburners because they have those on those SOC, tri-fighters, and originally there was rumor that those Aflacs were going to go down to 3 points, and then you were going to have those at 3 points plus T81. All 3 get free afterburners, and it's here. I know they're only 3 health, but I'm going to tell you what, a 3 health shift with the free afterburners, that seems pretty good. It's just a free boost.
Has always been throughout every iteration of this game. Has always been one of the greatest upgrades in the game.
Yep, absolutely.
Has never been bad.
Well, and if you think about it, if you take 7 point Vader, you sacrifice that shield to ensure you have afterburners and other toys. It's just a thing, and I think that in this game right now that we're in, we're throwing a lot more red dice than we had been originally. I think that extra shield has come in handy. I've been running Grievous with the afterburners upgrade because I like the double reposition with Grievous twice a game. But if people ever decided they were going to only shoot Grievous, that shield upgrade would be a million times better. It's just all right, yeah, I'll just take that extra health.
The shield upgrade is just the whole. I mean, the list that I was playing has has 2 band upgrades built in, 2 hull upgrades on the boys, which is just a whole nother thing. I'm so confused by why there are hull upgrades in standardized cards and you can't use hull upgrade, but whatever. And then there's 4 of the 5 ships have a shield upgrade or / hull upgrade. It's just and the other thing I didn't mention is just it's kind of obvious. They're just hard to kill. Cool. Tomax is 2 agility, but you could only get 3 points. So you were mentioning JJ, how he can't always he has to spend his focus or whatever. Man, if your opponent is going all in on Tomax Bren then you are probably in a pretty good spot, or you don't know how to play the game.
It's
Because
the
he's just
fear.
such a bait piece. He's such a great bait piece.
He is. Yeah, it's the fear of getting saturation salvaged. That's what it is.
Yeah, it's pretty good. And I lined up bullseye with barrage rockets a few times too, which is just so great feeling when you know you have the reroll as well if you really need it.
Yeah.
So now, really, the last piece of this conversation that I want to kind of move on is so JJ has a coordinator in his list. You do not, Nick. So I don't know if I want to. So this feels like a Crispy conversation, right? Like every time I talk with Crispy, he's like insanely pro some sort of coordination inside of a list. But the question becomes: does the fire output of your list? Do you feel the fire output of your list counters the need to have that extra coordinating action that you could get every turn?
Yeah, I mean, so you have to decide when in turn 0 how you're going to use your list. You have the information of what the scenario is you're playing and what your opponent is playing, like what list they have. So I typically isolate 2 ships in my list. I'm like, you're an objective player, you're an objective player, unless it's chance. I say, Merrick, you're going to stay back and you're going to, scramble or claim or stay by the assault of the satellite array. Satellite, Tomax, you're going to do the same thing on this side. And then everybody else is like the threatening pieces that are there to do damage from the first engagement on. I'll take Merrick, depending on what I go against what Arc 170s. I'll say, I'm going to throw you against something that I absolutely need to kill. So I'll 5 straight, just throw him at somebody, get into range 1, Jag or something, and take a lock. And then have 4 ships shooting at Jag so that by the time it's Merrick's turn, he's the Grim Reaper. He's like, you're dead. And at that point, yeah, Merrick took a lock. It doesn't have a focus, but he initiative kills 1 ship. He probably only gets shot at 1 or 2 more times, and he almost never dies in that case. And I've already gotten enough value out of him. So with I don't need a coordinator. The other thing with JJ's list that I don't like is that, unfortunately, in this game right now, unless you're rebels, low initiative is just very problematic. Vizier and Laurier are, they have great opportunity value in a game. But Laurier is kind of there to just kind of be a nuisance and kind of try to be in the way, but can get initiative killed because he's I3 with 3 hull. And Vizier, I could put my whole list into Vizier and 1 round him easily, and I'd get almost a free 4 points. So and they're not great at objective play. Laurier and Vizier can't really play the objective very well. Like I guess Vizier could if it's like Scramble maybe. But it's just the way the game is right now with lower initiative. Scramble is terrible for low initiative pilots. Assault is good for medium base, I guess. Chance is fine because they're cheap, but salvage, no way. Neither of them are
Play the Reaper and salvage.
I gotta hard disagree with you at salvage. I think actually they're the best at salvage, mainly because their FAQ allows them to still boost while carrying a crate.
Sure, it's cute for sure.
And the boost with a 3 bank or 3 straight gives them a whole lot of distance. You have to dedicate a lot of time to go chase that Reaper if you do want to knock out that crate for it. Yes, it is a 1 agility.
Yeah, this is 1 agility, right? Like it's not that hard.
Yeah, but I think there's still
crits every round,
there is still a lot of value, and again, it's definitely a player preference. For me, I do play objectives quite a bit. I especially once you get that initial joust complete, the objective game is the end game for the match for me. So I do play objectives quite a bit, and I got to say, that value of having that Reaper. The Reaper initial boost for ailerons to coordinate somebody and then get in the way to set up a jam or set up a tractor against an intended target is really, really strong. I found that to work out very, very well against a lot of different variety of lists. And I got to say, I mean, at I2, if he happens to get up a shot, it's a bonus. But the important thing for me is to prevent my opponent from being able to use their ordnance by jamming them. Sure, people can counter that, but not many people can take care of a double jam. And
The double
the other part
double
of it-
jam? Where's the double jam from?
So if you set yourself up right, you can ignore, not coordinate with the ailerons. Set yourself up within range, either in bullseye or at range 1 of an opponent. Jam them. If they bump you and decide to take a red focus, then you can use Seven Sister in that list to jam them again. So it's a potential double jam in that point, and I've been able to use that very successfully in my list here. Again, it's not for everybody. I'm not going to say this is the be all end all. But there is a value for that particular set of actions that you can get off with that particular list. And if I can use that piece to allow the rest of my list to get very good shots into an unmodded opponent, or a tractor opponent, even more so, that feels a lot better to potentially knock out that problematic piece out of the game.
Man, it's tough. I don't really believe in the Reaper these days, and people don't seem to be in terms of how often they're getting played right now. They're still cheap. I like the Reaper, but I don't really believe in using
Reapers
it anymore.
are in the most played Empire lists, period.
Yeah, but okay. Show me how they're doing. How are they doing?
They have a positive win rate.
It's like one game.
Barely, but it's positive.
Hey, I'll tell you what, Nick, I will fly a Reaper for Nova, and man,
Yeah, do it, dude. I'm rooting for you. I want the Reaper to be good. I just think there's a lot of things that will shut it down. I mean, how would you sorry, Tanner, real quick, JJ, against my list, your list, how do you feel about your odds with your list going against my list?
I'd say it's pretty even, honestly. It all comes down to, number one, what objective or what scenario we're playing, number one, because that's a big deal. The other part of it too is, how we fly, right? Depending on how you set up your list, depending on how obstacles are placed, that will give me a better idea how I can angle my initial attack and set myself up to try to overcome the difference in our initiatives with objectives. And I'm going to try to get in the way as much as I can, especially with Marek. Your Marek would be probably the one ship I would consider actively targeting first to get it out of the way, and then just deal with Vader later on, because I can cripple Marek with a single bump, and then the rest of my list can jump in and take them out, and that'll be one less I5. And sure, you have the two boy TIE fighters that can pump out reliable damage as well, but they're also very susceptible to crits, which is why I want to keep my Marek alive as long as possible.
Marek.
Yeah, to dig out those crits on those boys, so that way I can cripple their ability.
Yeah.
If I could get one of them to be a either a weapons failure or a
Blinded. You blind the other Marek with a Marek.
Yeah.
No, I'm talking about the boys. I'm assuming that I've already taken out his Marek, but if I can later on, blind or panic one of your other guys and kind of, reduce their effectiveness of staying together and make them into 2 die guns, then I have a better chance at that point of winning that match. If we're going straight for kills, if it's going for objective play, then they might have to split up a little bit to deal with that. But it just depends, really.
So, I smell a match coming on. That's what I smell.
Right. Yeah, right.
And Nick, so I'm going to give you a little advice. Wager something, because JJ already has to wear a Lions outfit for the rest of the year because his Giants lost. So let's do something even crazier and make him have to wear something else.
It's got to be in person and stream, JJ. We got to do it.
Heck yeah, man.
I don't trust TTS anymore, man. I quit playing that for a reason.
I can respect that.
I have way more success playing in person. It's ridiculous.
You want me to wear like a Cubs jersey? What?
Yeah, sure. Right. Yeah. Well, I was gonna say we should do a friendly match, maybe even on TCS, but it'd be fun to get a real life game in with those lists. That'd be fun.
Heck yeah, man. Yeah.
So I smell a bet. Let's flesh out this bet. I don't know. Maybe it'll be on Nick's stream. I'll come over. I'll commentate on Nick's stream while the two of you go at it, and then you can like jump in and out and yell at each other on stream. It'll be fun.
Yeah, that's JJ and I have a record of playing. Well, not playing some interesting games. So.
Heck yeah, man! I'll never forget the Boba versus Luke. I'll never forget that game ever. Oh,
yeah.
That was the best game. Man.
Wasn't that on the
Golly.
Nickel City?
Yeah,
that was
on
Nickel
Nickel City.
like intro for
With
forever.
R5, people hating on R5, Astromech on Luke. I'm like, watch this. Just save me the game.
It really did, man.
It literally did.
Oh man.
Oh, you're killing me. All right, so there we go. So we've defined the definitive Vader is SSP Vader. That JJ's list has to compete against Nick to prove its supremacy. Or JJ, the other option is you can win a store champ and make top 4 at a regional.
Okay.
Otherwise, you just got to play in person.
Easy,
and
dude. It's so easy to do.
And we'll see.
Yeah, no
You
problem.
just got to play. Otherwise, you got to play his list, and we'll see which one's better.
Okay, fair. Yeah.
And no rage quitting by either of you. That's the one rule. No rage quitting.
Yo, I mean, I was actively rooting for my XCC loss, after midway through that game. So, I mean, I'm okay. I don't rage quit.
Ugh, man.
All right, well, we will not be talking about that. Let's move over and talk some turn 0 placement for our Academy 101 segment. So welcome to our Academy 101 segment where we will be talking about turn 0. Hopefully everybody on this stream is in the turn 0 because JJ has a little bit of information that he wants to help everyone out. And we thought since we had Nick on and Nick's won so much stuff lately, it would be even more beneficial to actually have a conversation around turn 0 placement and all of that fun stuff, as long as my stupid cam link wants to work.
Yeah. So this is a discussion that's been going around for quite some time, and shout out to Viper Squadron and Crispy doing a video on their take on turn 0 replacement. But I think I wanted to do something like of a deep dive into this to kind of go over it to help out newer players that are going into the game that want to learn a little more about strategy, about setting up correctly for their lists, and to kind of give them a little bit of a guide for that. So the first thing I want to talk about is the list building part, right? A lot of people, they make their builds for whatever faction they want, and then they just choose 3 random obstacles to go from there. And I think that sometimes you sometimes either can cripple or enhance your list depending on the depending on the obstacles that you choose for your list. There are certain pilots that will prefer certain obstacles if they have any type of pilot abilities or crew abilities that allow them to ignore certain restrictions or certain negative effects of obstacles, and meanwhile your opponent cannot do that. So making sure those are incorporated as part of your list can be very, very important. For instance, like if you have a list that has a lot of repositioning aces, choosing large obstacles can help provide cover for those aces if they need to disengage, or it can help create choke points where your opponent can easily follow through, or where you can create kill boxes for your list to go in and take out certain ships on your opponent's side. You can choose debris clouds for ships that can mitigate stress. For instance, on the Resistance, you have, oh my goodness, Corsella, thank you. Corsella, which if you're not familiar with Corsella, it's a crew for the Resistance that after you perform a blue maneuver, you can get rid of, after you fully execute a blue maneuver, you can fully discard all your stress. So in an emergency where you absolutely need to get out of a jam, going through the debris cloud absolutely helps you to get rid of all the stress, and you can still perform an action, assuming that you clear that obstacle completely. Gas clouds to help you break locks. Again, if you have, for instance, on Scum, if you have Kira crew that allows you to ignore different obstacles while you have that obstacle locked, putting your ship on a gas cloud that has a lock while you have Kira crew allows you to basically be unlockable. You cannot be locked or while your ship is on that, because your opponent can ignore that obstacle or without having something like hero crew, but you absolutely can. So it provides a little bit of defense. You can further
Just don't
exploit
get jammed or
that.
ionized when you have
Exactly. Don't get ionized, but you can further take advantage of that with like trick shot, for instance. Especially if you have a little bit of space between your base and the obstacle in front of you and your opponent, just being able to get that extra die out definitely helps out with your offensive potential as well. And then adjusting the size of the obstacles as well for like medium, large bases. Size objectives or obstacles rather, having smaller ones gives you a little bit more space for those ships to move around and be able to be effective by covering a lot more area with their arcs if they're able to move more openly in that. Well, what are you guys' thoughts on list building and selecting the right objectives or obstacles?
And you're gonna hate me, but like I agree with everything you said. I agree with. There's definitely a strategy. I don't tend to play lists where it matters as much. So I usually I like to bring like big rocks and debris to like plug up lanes or like cover areas or just make it more difficult for my opponent to fly around. But yeah, it just depends on what kind of list builder you are. I don't play a lot of medium large bases that want to fly over gas clouds. I know some people bring gas clouds because they're like, only a crit will ionize me with a medium or large base, so they bring those. Like with the Arc 170 lists, they're really popular. I get it. And there's also, you can break locks on them. Like there's a lot of cool effects that gas clouds do that are like kind of helpful. But I usually just have been using the same 3 obstacles like every time I play.
Yeah, I agree. I tend to bring the 2 debris clouds from the newer pack, and then one of the large asteroids. Like that's my standard loadout for most of the obstacles, unless I'm bringing something in particular. Like the gas cloud thing, I definitely used a lot when I was running double fire sprays, just to help Iman not get locked. But yeah, I mean, or if you're playing CIS, you never bring a gas cloud, right? Because you always want to be able to latch onto one of those.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Also, talking about like with like Han, I think some people get caught in the idea that they should bring tiny, small obstacles because of Han. But here's the reality, guys. Han, it doesn't really matter that as much. Han will still get the reroll. It's about where you place your obstacles when it comes to pilots like Han. Having bigger ones actually can be more beneficial to you because of where you can put them to make them go different ways. So I think this part of turn zero. Some people overthink it a little bit. It is very important, but like ultimately your games are decided by variance and your decisions. Not, gosh, if I had brought that larger debris. That's just not how games usually go. Or man, I could have used that gas cloud there.
Yeah,
for other things that contribute to a win or loss.
Yeah, for me, oddly enough, the smaller obstacles have always been historically worse for me because for some reason I always guarantee that I land on one at least every single time.
Piece I always hit every single time.
And some mats, dude, they blend in depending on what mat you use, dude.
Yeah,
that's why I take the Mandalorian
ones?
asteroids. They just blend in with little blue mats.
Yeah. Have you guys seen the crate map that they have that's so busy that they were using during Crate Cup? That is like the worst map because you can't see any obstacles on board.
Oh, there's one that I won in Ohio that is just a blue mat with a whole bunch of asteroids going in the middle, and they're the exact colors of the Mandalorian.
I know exactly which one you're talking about. Yep, yeah, I've seen that one.
And then you just put it right by there, and you just like never notice it. It's great.
So the next part, speaking about just different scenarios depending on what ships you're bringing in. Let's talk about placing obstacles for particular scenarios, right? So let's take a look first at assault at the satellite array. We know historically large and medium bases do have an advantage for assault on satellite array, as they count as two ships rather than the small bases which just count as one. So you typically see those ships excel more at those scenarios just because of that advantage that they have on there. Do you guys tend to change your objective placement depending on like where the control points are to like help block off certain areas?
I fly a lot of large bases, so I try to put like an asteroid. Well, for like assault, I try to set it up that there's multiple points in which I could take two of them with one ship, and then I try to place a rock slightly askew that I can reach, but they won't be able to put directly in the middle where I need to go. Conversely, if you're going against medium and large base ships, you should put a rock directly between two objectives.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. I mean, even there are times where you can place like 3 objectives within range of each other, and you can set one ship and claim up to 3. And anytime I see that, as much as I want to leave it open, that's like an instant spot where I'm going to put an obstacle every time.
Yeah, especially if you have to face off against Alex List, where he just parks his ship there and then says, "Yeah, go ahead and block me. I'm going to get 3 points every turn." Ha ha ha. And like,
I just stop her as much as I want. It's fine.
And I think that's like when I set up with CIS, if I have a ship that lands on an obstacle or 2 of them, I specifically go out of my way to try and place them where it's not the triangle piece, because getting a triangle with a droid is insanely hard. Like you have to be so precise. But typically you could get 2 objectives in one area. And I did have one game back in NCX days where I did have that. I think that was 2 seasons ago. But I had one where I placed this like 2 objectives and put 2 droids on, and then was able to counter like people just like, you come kill the droids because they're collecting 3 objectives a turn. Merry Christmas, But that's a rarity. Like as long as you know playing wise what to do with it. If you don't like, if somebody's gonna put a rock in the middle of the 3 of them and they're gonna sit on it, just murder them, right? And if they're gonna leave that open space, then you know where somebody's gonna be. So I think like a lot of the obstacle placement piece of that, like I don't care for gas clouds except for if I'm flying ships that don't care about locks. So if I fly Republic and I'm not getting a million locks, I'll take the gas clouds because it could possibly help me. And like if a Jag gets ionized, what do I care if he 1 forwards and takes a focus? I don't care as much about that.
Well, I care because he's strained, and you can't use Born for this while you're strained.
All right. Well, whatever. But...
Yeah.
So
super quick. It's okay. I just saw what Mike said in the chat. I just want to set the record straight that there's nothing wrong with TTS. I've played on TTS for a long time. We all play on Tabletop Simulator quite often. I just have a ridiculously long string of confirmation bias that makes me just not enjoy playing on Tabletop Simulator as much anymore. And I've had way more fun and success playing in real life, like the physical game. So I've just personally don't love TTS just because I've had a lot of bad luck playing it. But it doesn't mean there's anything wrong with it. That makes sense. All right.
Yeah.
Just didn't want people to think there's anything actually physically wrong with Tabletop Simulator.
I heard Tabletop Simulator hates everyone from the Midwest.
If you watch my Draft League games, you'll know why I don't like playing on Tabletop Simulator.
We have an entire section where it's just about whining about dice and Tabletop Simulator, and I think Crispy is like the #1 poster.
#1 person, yeah. Right.
So the other piece I wanted to talk about for obstacles and objective placements for assault on the satellite array. I know we talked a little bit about placing objectives closer together where you can contest two objectives together. Have you guys find yourselves doing that more often, or do you feel like you find yourself spreading out a lot more if you have a larger amount of ships?
I think it depends. I think for me it depends on which one it is, right? So if we talk about scramble,
Yeah.
I have, depending on their ship the amount of ships they have in their list, I have started actually placing the objective farther away from the middle in an effort to force them to keep one ship back farther to claim it. I don't know if that's the correct answer or not, but I do know that like I have started doing that a little bit. If they have a 6-ship list, I don't do that because them losing a ship is not the end of the world.
Yeah.
But on a 4-ship list, it does make a difference. Like they can leave in Rebels, they could leave Sabine back there. But if I have 5 ships, I'm just taking one ship and sending it towards Sabine and that objective. Because if you're going to be there, I'm just going to go try to murder you. Not that.
Well, the other benefit of placing it further away from the center point is that later in the game they cannot turn around and reach it again. Some people like to keep everything like it's scramble. Let's just use scramble as an example. To keep everything exactly at range 2 of each other, like, you know, your side, my side, like towards the middle. And that way people can just kind of toilet bowl and end up coming back to that same objective point and scrambling it again. When you distance everything, people have to be more tactical with where they're moving their ships. If they end up disengaging, then the point that they claim that was on their side in like the second round, you can claim, and they have to do the same for your side and go all the way to the other side to get it.
It kind of depends on how fast your ships are too. Because if you have
Yeah.
not terribly fast ships, you don't generally want to put it all the way in BFE because you won't be able to reach there meaningfully and still engage.
Yep. That's
You
actually
guys-
a great point. That's a great point. Is it also influences engagements? You know, salvage, I think, is a really good example because it's so hindering with what you cannot do once you take a crate and what you're worried about losing it when you take a crit. Like, depending on where they are, you can put a lot of pressure on your opponent. And that's the way I look at objectives is like, how can I pressure my opponent into playing in a
Making a
way that
decision.
works for me, making a decision that I can take advantage of. And with high initiative ships that were in my list, like with Scramble, I'm like, great, you took it, but my Vader's going to take it right back. Guaranteed every turn, I am in a position to take it right back.
Now, have you guys ever considered, at least for Scramble, placing an objective all the way as far back into your opponent's side?
I've done that before, but also it really depends on how fast my ships are. If I have like an
Yeah.
A-wing or like a silencer or something, that's no problem for me. But if I'm playing like my scum list, that's slow, and that ain't going to the other half of the board. I have to put it closer to everything else.
Yeah, typically I do it at like I do it like range like 2.5 from the center, so it's like a little further back, but not so far back that I have to commit and go super fast. But it's also far enough back on their side that it is harder for them to get to reclaim or get back to, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I feel like placing objectives, the hard part is figuring out what your opponent's list does really well and trying to mess with that by placing your objectives. Because, like, if they don't have fast ships, you can bury one of your like scramble objectives super close to your edge, or like closer to your edge of the board, or like an assault or something back there where they probably aren't going to reach it in time.
Yeah, I think it's wrong to have a turn 0 approach where you are assuming that your opponent is going to struggle with getting their side of the objectives. Just assume that they're going to be able to get 1 or 2 points, whether it be the salvage, whether it be scrambling their side. Like, it's all about having more than them. That gets determined later in the game. Who has more crates, who has more scramble points, who is near more assault points, or who's in the center point, right? So it's bad to just like, you can't control what your opponent does, so stop acting like you can set up in a way that prohibits them from being able to do something that they can do. Like, that's not what's going to decide your game, is them taking the point that is rightfully on their side of the board that is very easy to claim, like, at least early in the game.
Yeah, and I think that's you bring up a good point, right? Like you have to understand the other side and what they're going to spend their time doing. Like if you look at a list like Nick's and you go, well, is he going to leave one ship here or one ship there and it not matter? Nick just explained with that Empire list that he can choose 2 objective getters if he wants to, and it's typically the same ones. Like I don't know how often you're using Vader as the objective getter unless everybody just leaves Vader alone. But he is there as an option. But mainly,
I could choose when I want to. It can be a last minute decision. It's a beautiful luxury to have with a list like that.
Yeah.
Be like, hey, you know what? I think I actually will take this crate with Vader. Sure.
Yeah.
I don't care.
And in my loss to D, that was the same thing. Like D picked up a crate with Vader, and in the long run, between killing Tease 81 and Vader having that crate, because I couldn't knock the crate off of Vader no matter what I wanted to do. Like when you roll 3 green dice and have 3 force and a focus,
right?
It's very hard to take a crate off of Vader sometimes. And when you already spent your afterburner charges, what do you care?
Exactly. That's exactly what I was going to say. Yeah, you must have spent those afterburners. Yeah.
Yes. So I don't know. I think if
Well,
you
even
look
with
at
the boys too, like I'm like, oh, I'd rather be able to boost, but you know what? No, I'm gonna make my opponent freak out that I have 4 crates right now. That's what I did with D-Yoon. I beat him 21-20 because of that. So just like it all matters.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Well, I think
Now,
that's like part of the beauty of the objectives, right? Like, I mean, we've talked about this a little bit last episode, is where I really think the objectives change play style and make the game have another dimension it didn't have before.
yeah,
It's
And I
amazing
know there
and
was
exhausting, man. It's amazing and exhausting. Like it's cool, but it's so exhausting.
It is.
Yeah.
I do agree with you.
Now, we stumbled on a little bit of talking about salvage. Do you guys find yourself placing these salvage tokens closer together, or do you spread them out depending on like what you feel?
So when I do salvage, I pay a lot more attention to where the asteroids are, because I want to try to funnel the people to a particular area in salvage that makes it very difficult for them to get over there or to escape with the asteroids. It's kind of like a dual prong thing. It's like I see where the choke points are, and then I put the salvage crates over there, because I have to force them to even consider picking it up if my ships are going real fast at them. And I just have like Bosk or whatever in the back grabbing a crate. But I'm not sure, if that's the correct way. It's just, for me, it's a lot more of, well, I want to make it very difficult for them to get over to this side of the board. And if they do, I could probably outjoust them. kind of thing.
I would just say keeping things spread apart, where that like the Arc 170, like there's so many archetypes right now that are popular that fly one way and only one way. So when you set them all far apart, let's just use the Arc 170s again as an example, because they're just so good right now. Now they do have to think about, okay, well, do I either just not worry about the salvage on the other side of the board and keep my formation the same, or do I split a couple up and widen them a little bit? And that ends up, again, you're putting pressure on your opponent to break their formation, to make decisions that end up hurting the quality of their engagements, because maybe now their Arc 170s are too far away for selfless, or Padme is at range 4 and can't use her ability because she stayed back and grabbed a crate or whatever. I would say keeping them spread out across the board like this instead of all on one side. This is because we don't have TTS. I'm just doing this, miming everything. Is like it's important. And even if they do have an objective monkey like Sabine, right? You can't control that. Sabine was always going to be that piece anyways. But just make it so that Sabine is never shooting, because she has to be all the way on the other side of the board. Like, she's only 2 points, but she is one of 5 ships. Like, take that, take pieces of the equation out where you can, or influence it at least. Be an influencer, man.
Yeah. And if you think about it, it's kind of the same way. Like, when we do salvage, if I have CIS, I usually put 1 crate towards the back in the center. And I do that on purpose because I'm going to probably pick that up with either the HMP, or I'm going to pick it up with the 2-point droid and force you to come get it. But you're right. It takes the offensive piece out of it. But putting it in the back center where I can get it and still, unless you barrel roll, or like not barrel roll, that's a stupid, unless you come barreling in on me, you're not going to take that ship out even round 2. And I only need it for 2 rounds to collect 2 points to be worth its value. And if you're going to invest that time, again, going into that. But that's the idea, is like, if you put it in the back center and your objective monkey is going to pick that up, they're going to have to place the other one closer to the center of the board, which forces then either you pick it up for the engagement, and I think it then depends on initiative, right? Like if I'm an I6 and I'm a Sunfac and I can get a, like a focus and tractor off on you, I'm probably not going to pick up that crate, that churn. But if we're not getting shots in and I'm a Sunfac, I'm going to pick that crate up and then I'm going to run past you and try to shoot you from the side, one of the side shots, and throw a tractor and a focus token at you because Sunfac doesn't care about traditional. It's stupid. The Nantex is a cool
best ship
design,
in
but
the
it's
game.
kind of dumb, right? Like it's just kind of it's just a silly design for scenarios. Obviously, it's just very silly.
Well, I also think that it depends, Tanner, on if you are going to be able to actually kill that ship or not. Like, sure, you have an opportunity to do a ton of damage, but if there's no way that you feel like you can actually kill it anytime soon, I think if the math supports it, like let's say you have 14 or 15 points, and the difference between 2 crates versus 3 is enough to mathematically close the door on your opponent, even though you have this great haymaker shot, take the crate. Like,
yep.
Because then they can't win. They just cannot win.
Yep. I had picked up a crate with Sunny. I'm gonna call him Sunny just to piss Zach off. And Sunfac. Yeah, I don't care. I don't give a shit. He's the original Sunny. Fuck the scum Sunny.
How long before the Sunfac one was out?
Yeah, true. I was like, whoa.
I know. I do it just to piss Zach off. But anyway, now that we've got our rating for the night, but I've done that with Sunny before, is where I've picked up a crate and tractored myself, to be out of a shot on a last turn, and that crate made the difference for the game. It's a rare thing, but it does happen.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So going back to what Alex had mentioned earlier about creating choke points like in salvage and stuff, how often do you guys find when you place your obstacles that you're placing your obstacles to create choke points versus spreading them out? Like, what's your philosophy on when you do either?
With my scum list, I need choke points or I pretty much lose because I have large bases not moving, and I need a space parking lot around me, and I need asteroids around me to protect me from people approaching at different vectors. Also, that's your best way of killing ships, is to surround them in kill boxes, because they had to go through an obstacle awkwardly. But that's on them if they decide to do that.
Yeah, obstacles are about creating lanes in my head. Like, that's the way my brain works. So, like, what kind of, like, with media, like the with Han and Arc 170s and stuff, which I feel like I'm really like, that's the only 2 lists that I'm thinking about playing against, because that's all that you see these days. It's just like, if the only lane that they have, like, to keep the perfect formation is going down the side of the board, then I think you've set up in a good way. And your opponent probably won't want to do that because you're not going to be jousting them. You shouldn't be, at least. So then they have to start trying to get creative with how they split each other up or keeping a formation. Maybe one of them opts to barrel roll to get out of the way, and then that means that they no longer have a mod for defense or for attacking. Like, yeah, they're definitely, I look at them as choke points. And also, just like on my side, when I set them up on my side as cover, like, I'm going to place one in front of this scenario or this objective, so that when, like, Merrick goes to scramble, even though he doesn't have any tokens, he's taking a range 3 obstructed shot. Like, he has a better chance of not taking any damage. Like, so choke points and cover are the 2 that I look at the most.
I mean, too bad we didn't get free evades anymore, right? I mean, that was the thing.
That was the only thing keeping Cody's ships alive.
The good old days, right? Free evades.
Yeah,
Gas
change
cloud,
the blank to an evade. Blank to an
Yep.
evade.
Yeah.
That way, only Cody took only 1 damage instead of 2.
All right. So the last part of this, obviously, would be, we placed all of our objective points. We placed all of our obstacles on the board. Now let's talk about placing ships on the board. And I think that this is probably one of the most important skills that a new player can learn when they're starting out, is how do I place my ships, right? So obviously there's a multitude of different lists out there that we see see currently in the meta. And of course, they'll vary differently in sizes, initiatives, and such. But we want to kind of like talk about this as general as possible here. So let's talk about spacing and formation flying. Let's say you have a list that has a lot of initiatives that line up, and you want them to fly in a formation. What do you guys normally do when you want to try fly in formation? Like, how do you guys tackle on the spacing? Do you guys have a particular trick that you guys use in terms of like allowing certain amount of spacing between ships? How do you guys do it?
I don't fly things in formations. I almost exclusively do just a firing line where I have 5 ships evenly spaced out between the other parts of the board.
Now, I know you say that, but is it mainly because you have larger ships, or do you do that you're flying just small bases?
No, I do it when I'm just flying small bases. But I do have the more maneuverable ships on the flank. So depending on where my opponent sets up, I can either go fast with one side or collapse both in at a certain point while my slower ships are going up the center of the board or off the angle of wherever probably the correct approach vector is. But I have flown ships in formations a little bit, like a loose formation, and generally I give them slightly larger than the width of the template, like a 1 or 2 straight template. I go slightly larger because I have shaky hands occasionally. So I don't want them to crash into each other.
Yeah. How about you, Nick?
Sorry. Suck it, Tanner. So do you want to go, Tanner?
No, go ahead.
I like to be as non-committal as possible I spread things out, and then I like to place, we talked about this on your show, I think the last time I was on. I like to place my ships right in front of obstacles and then be able to readjust with a barrel roll. Not everybody's playing ships that can do that, but I play a lot of small base ships. So I typically like to spread things out and then be able to readjust if I see that somebody decided to go all in one direction, or I learn more information that I didn't have upon setup. So also because being non-committal early on is an important way to keep your cards close to your chest. If you reveal exactly what you're trying to do early on, your opponent has a lot of time to be able to counter it. So yeah, that's usually the way that I set it up. With scenarios, you have to be mindful of the fact that it's kind of unacceptable to just ditch your own scenario unless both your opponent and you agree to honorable joust. But if you have a crate on your side or your scramble point, or you need to make sure that you claim those points, because you will not have a good chance to claim it again in most games later on. Take the crate, because it's going to be you'll never go back to get it again. Your opponent will be able to grab it, not you. So you got to try to do that. Scramble the point to force your opponent to go over there to take it back. Also, because you have to scramble the point that's on your side, you need to score those points. And just don't leave anything out to dry. That's usually why a lot of people lose, newer players. They're like, I'll have my Luke be, 30 parsecs away from the rest of my squad. And then he gets, shot at 3 times and dies. And it's like, man, this game went badly for me. And it's like, well, yeah, there was nothing protecting one of your more valuable ships. So it's about protecting your list as well as playing, to be non-committal and to play the scenario as well.
Yeah. Chris, what about you, man? You play a lot of separatists with droids. How do you handle the placing issue, like when you're trying to space your ships out?
Well, I think it depends. A lot of it depends typically on the scenario, right, and what my opponent is flying. I have a method that I would say is an approved method, and then I have a method that Tanner likes to just fly. I also like the flanking pieces that go on opposite sides of the board and force you to choose who you're going to shoot at or go after. So, I have a Grievous and I have a T-81. Both of them are I-4s. Typically, they're not super great into an I-5 and I-6 meta, except for it's Grievous, right? And it's T-81. And if you place your forces to come after T-81, I'm going to tank him and toil around the edge of the board, just like Nick said, and just kind of sit there. Because T-81 can kind of sit in the back. He's not going to take a crate ever. Almost ever, I guess. Almost ever. Because he doesn't want to not be able to boost or barrel roll. Whereas Grievous, on the other hand, doesn't care as much about that piece of it. Like, Grievous would love to boost or barrel, but he doesn't have to do that. It's not like a requirement to keep that ship alive because he's got 7 to 8 health, no matter what. And he gets rid of crits mysteriously. So, like, we don't know how he does it, but somehow Grievous just, like, kind of tossed them out. But in terms of formation flying, if I do want to set up like a few ships in a block, I've gone away from like a 7 or 8 ship block that I used to fly because we don't do that anymore. And I've gone to, let's just say, a 2 to 3 ship. I typically will take that one, the one straight maneuver, and I will place it between my ships as a base length. And if I'm going to do some sort of an angle, so if I put them in the corner because I'm going to angle them in, I will actually take it and put that one in between, and then give them space on each side of it so that way I can angle in as a group. Because I have more than one time bumped droid ships. More than one time, definitely. So that's typically how that would go in terms of how, like, if you want that physical piece for the setup. But in terms of actually flying that, the philosophy I would agree with Nick is you toil around that side of the board. If you've ever played me before, it's a 50-50 toss-up. I'm either going to 5 straight boost and try to shoot you and then worry about my turnaround round 2 or 3. Or I'm going to 5 straight boost and then place myself so that I can, like, 1 or 2 bank and get the objective next turn and block you. I'm going to do one of those 2 things. That's, like, the Tanner. Like, I fly really fast sometimes, and I know I shouldn't, because I've lost games where people are like, yeah, we just knew you were going to 5 straight boosts, and like, fuck,
Well, yeah. Sometimes I'll place the boys next to each other, and then I'll dial in like a 2 straight, and people are like, what? I'm like, yeah. And I'll do it again. I'll do straight again. It's fine.
How dare you go slow?
Well, because they'll go so fast to try to block me, and if I do a 2 straight and I do a 2 straight again, there's no way they could block me.
Yeah, they're not yet. Well, you haven't had a Sunfec and a T-81 thrown at you.
Or, okay, in those cases, Tanner, I'll barrel roll all the way back so the angle's off, and then I can bank in, and there's still no way you can block me.
There you go. The better move is, Nick, is the fact that if I do block you, it's inconsequential because you're just going to keep moving your boys around the board, or you're going to 4K and boost in with Afterburner to shoot me. So it's not going to matter.
Yeah, right.
Yep. But in all seriousness, in that aspect of it is, if your goal is to block them and start claiming those objectives, like if they're a fast maneuverable ship, blocking them does not much good. But I won't lie and tell you that I've taken T-81 and literally like set them up in formation and moved the rest of the formation towards the center of the board and left T-81 by himself to just fly and try to block you and like toil around. I have tied up somebody's dirge more than one time with T-81, and then he just doesn't die. And then people get angry because they can't kill T-81. And it's like, well, I can't kill dirge, you can't kill T-81. Yeah. Like, are you not going to collect objectives? Oh, nope, I'm going to. Okay, there you go. So I think that's for formation flying in CIS, that's kind of the approach for it. Nice. If we got away from objectives, we would just go back to flying in a block again. I would have 2 blocks because that's what I used to do. I used to put 2 blocks on the side and put Watt in the center.
Well, also
I love me some Watt.
Keep in mind that road matters so much for placing your ships and how you move them too. I mean, especially placing, like you place where you think, if you have no information, if you're playing the meta right now where there's mostly I4s and up and you have to place first, you're kind of just taking, you got to be conservative and place them in places where you can cover your back or cover your flank. But if you have all that information, then you can be like, cool, I'm going to put everything right here to threaten this piece. I'm going to put these here, got a 5 straight boost or whatever. It plays such a huge factor. Like, so sometimes people take too big of a risk if they're the first player when setting up their ships, because they forget that their opponent gets to decide where they put theirs.
So that's definitely a point I wanted to talk about. Like, how much do you think that, like, let's say you had a list that was mainly like initiative force or lower, how much that does your philosophy of where you place your ships or space them, how much does that affect you guys? Like when you're trying to like predict where you think your opponent is going to go? Do you try to spread them out as much as you can, or do you congregate them towards the center so that we can react better? What do you think is a better approach for a newer player?
Oh, so I might be literally the person who won the store champ with the least amount of initiative because I think you averaged out my list as a 3.8 initiative across the board. So I almost always set up before my opponent. So again, large base middle, another large base next to it so you can't get behind it, firing line, and then figure it out from there. If you have low initiative, that's kind of what you have to do. If you set up all your ships on one side of the board, if you don't have a better jousting list than your opponent, they just set up on the other side of the board. And it's kind of a wash.
Yeah.
So, but if you have a lot of low initiative, you kind of have to keep more towards the center, see where they are.
Well, and 75% of the time, you're playing a scenario where it'd be very asinine to place everything on one corner of the board.
Right.
Because your opponent's just going to play the objective.
Exactly.
And you decided not to, and you lost immediately.
So you do kind of have to spread out if you have lower initiative. Like you can't just set up in one corner.
Yeah, definitely.
But if I have like same initiative stuff, like if I'm playing like a Republic list and I have like Obi-Wan and stuff, I have the luxury of seeing where at least some of their ships are going. So that way you can like, well, my low initiative ship is over here on this side of the board, and all my high initiative stuff's going over here because that will be flanking them. So I'm going to turn the lower initiative closer to where my high initiative stuff is and work it out from there. I'm not a very I go in with one strategy kind of thing. I just YOLO everything and see how it works out.
All right.
It's a good strategy, Alex. Just YOLO everything. Very comprehensive. We got 4 brains putting our brains together here. Talk strategy. I just YOLO it.
I mean,
Alex, no. Hold on. That's a misrepresentation. Alex says, give me a beer and then let me YOLO it.
Yeah.
And by round 3, it's if I haven't had 4 beers, I'm definitely not winning.
The amount of alcohol consumption is equal to the amount of wins. So yes.
I will tell you. You all laugh at this, like, and it's funny. It's funny. I've watched this happen at when we went to what was the name
Worlds?
of that? No. I watched you all tank at Worlds, but no. What was the fucking thing we went to in December? I don't remember. It was a team tournament in Ohio. We all went to.
Rust Cup. Yes.
Rust Cup. There you go. I literally have watched them consume alcohol and play better. Yeah. I don't know what it is. Like, I don't usually have that.
Cody has to be hungover or drunk in order to do well.
You see, dude, my top 4 game, I had to ask for another 10 minutes because we were marking so much and taking so long to mark things. Like, it was like over 10 minutes of my game was dedicated to the judges marking things to move like Sabine like an 1/8 of an inch forward. Like,
for Worlds, my breakfast was some dry oatmeal.
Doing that while you're drunk? Come on. Come on.
Cody chugged, well, he tried to shotgun a hop slam before Worlds, and he did it. Or it was Adepticon, but it wasn't Worlds at the time. So we just go in, we just drink a lot, and we just figure it out as we go.
Oh my god, dude!
That's
There's too many tokens, too many ships, too much marking. Like, I told Zach Bard he beat me top 4. I'm like, dude, Zach, honestly, I'm okay. You beat me. You're my guy because you will have to continue to do this, and I will get to take a break. You will have to keep marking everything.
All right. Well, let's wrap Turn 0 up. What is anybody's last thoughts before we conclude Turn 0 and move into a few store champs that I have?
Just final thoughts. I think that if you're a newer player who's looking to get into the more competitive side of X-Wing with tournaments and store champ season in full swing, definitely practicing your turn 0 placements is a very, very big tool for you to help you properly set up your game plan for the rest of the match. I know that early on when you're learning the game, you're not thinking so much about that portion of the game. You're more concerned about learning what your pilots are doing. But once you start getting quite a few reps in, usually by the time you start getting to about I would say your 10th rep, that's when you really want to start streamlining your openings, your turn 0 placement to help maximize the effect for your list. And that should give you a very good chance to succeed in your matches. And who knows, you might be a new player and you take your local store championship, and we'll see you at Worlds. It'd be great.
All right. Well, cool. Anybody else have anything on turn 0 before we move into our pattern analyzer segment?
Just yellow everything.
Nope.
Perfect.
All right, nope. Stop. I'm cutting that out of this. You're not getting that out of this one. All right. Well, let's move on to our next segment, the pattern analyzer segment, where we go through some of the store champs that happened this weekend. All right. For our pattern analyzer segment, and I don't know why my video's not showing up, but that's okay. You don't need to see my ugly face. You can see everybody else's pretty faces and Nick's cat. And cats are the best. But the first store champ we want to cover is Adventure Games in Wisconsin. And I'm going to let Alex take the first list because he's going to make it up on the fly because like for some reason it shows that he ran a 5T70 list in Resistance, but the list does not show up. It's not there. I don't know why. I can't find it in CT or in Roll Better. It's just a non-existent list. So, Alex, if you had to run a 5-ship Resistance T70 list, what would you run?
So if they go by statistically the most popular 5T70 list, it would be Elo, Snap, Jess, Nemi, and not Kythernali, the other one.
Hello. Right.
No, yeah, it's Elo, Snap,
Jess,
Nemi, and
Temin.
He
that's
said
Snap.
snap already.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Oh,
It's
either Venisa Doza or Kythernali.
Yeah.
Sometimes Kari, but not as popular.
bless you.
So it's one of those combination of ships. One of those. I mean, they're all. You choose the 4.1, so you're not getting like Nub, you're not getting Bastion, you're not getting not Joff Sea Striker, the other one, the one that gets evades for some reason. So yeah, they're all those popular ones. I'm assure you it's Elo. I assure you it's Snap.
Yeah. Almost no reason not to take them.
Yeah. So I don't know. I apologize. I didn't want to include this one, but I kind of felt like we probably should have that conversation because it is a 5T70 list that did win. And we have in the past, I won't lie and say I have in the past shit on 5T70s in as a list that is nothing but a gatekeeper, but I do think it does decently well as Store Champs. I just don't think it has the longevity of a 8-round tournament list, personally.
They just want to bring Nemi instead of Kaz for some reason. I never understood why they're bringing 5 and not
the biggest issue with the 5C70 list. I mean, there's two. One is that you can break them apart where they're just not getting shots on the right targets. The second thing is that you can initiative kill more than half the list.
Yeah, exactly. It's just I don't know. So I like I said, I think it's a valid. I don't want to dismiss the list because it has won at least 5 store champs, I believe now.
Nice.
But I don't. Yeah. I think store champ. We had this discussion before. Store champs are different than regional tournaments, which is different than worlds, right? And I think that's the largest piece of this discussion point when we do this pattern analyzers. You got to look at what the other competition is, right? What did he defeat? What did it goes on with it? In a niche environment, I think 5T70s are decent enough to win. I just don't think they can. I don't think they can stand the test of time. I don't know. You know who loves T70s? Han loves T70s. I will tell you that. Han just loves to eat them for breakfast. So
I was gonna say T70s are actually, especially with HLC, I think are actually a decent counter to Han. If you get enough shots on them.
They're really good against arcs right now too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And hence, if you look at what the next list that we have up for the segment, we have a Republic list. Who wants to run through a Sinker Republic list?
I'll take a look at it. So this one here, we got Anakin Skywalker, the Siege Coruscant version that comes with Malice, the ancillary ion weapons, R2-D2, Two, have the Siege of Coruscant Oddball with Selfless Veteran Tail Gunner, R4P Astromech. That's the Siege of Coruscant Arc 170 version. Contrail, custom Contrail with R4 Astromech. Sync Console Alpha Besh with Cluster Mines. Padme with Daredevil Fire Control System, Advanced Proton Torpedoes, and R4. And Sinker and the Arc 170 with Marksmanship, Ayla Sakura Crew, R4P Astromech to round off the list. Definitely really interesting to bring Sinker here. If you're not familiar with Sinker, provides rerolls for the friendlies that are in the side arcs of Sinker. So if you happen to run them in a nice like sweeping formation, Sinker's going to provide all those rerolls to everybody in the side arc there within range
1 to 2.
Range 1 and 2. Yeah. So it does definitely help out a lot, especially if you're running it with like Oddball, which Oddball is going to be like pretty much right next to Sinker all the time. And as well as Padme. If Padme happens to be in that side arc there, it definitely helps out with those shots there.
There was a list that made into like essentially day 2 of Gen Con that had Sinker in it. And that Sinker had Kit Fisto, which was very clever because you could spend the Force to force Oddball to do a red evade action, which in turn gave him a target lock, which was super cool.
Yeah.
All right, we missed that when we did Gen Con coverage, didn't we? I did not know that.
Yes. But this one has Ayla, which is a focus link purple coordinate.
Yeah. Still very
cool.
good.
Yeah, I mean, it gives you the double mods for Padme easy. But also then you put advanced proton torpedoes on Padme, so I don't know what you're doing.
you're going in range 1, baby. That's what you're doing, I guess. I don't know. I think that... I don't know. Anyway, let's move on to the next one. The next one is Dragon's Lair, and shout out to we have a friend of the podcast that ran in this. He didn't make top cut this time, right, JJ? But he does. He is a friend of the podcast, and he decided he was going to run something different for this store tournament. So it looks like the winner, and I don't know. I guess I don't know if I gave the link to Nick or not. But Nick, do you want to cover the winner since it's your favorite trader faction?
For the Dragon's Lair one?
Yes.
Am I looking at the right one?
Yes.
The winner is a first order list. No? I'm looking.
No, it's an Empire list. Hang on, I'll send it to you in a second.
Okay, the link, I clicked the Dragon's Lair link, and I think I might be. Yeah, go ahead and send it to me. Sure, I'll cover it. Thanks.
Yeah, so I don't know what it is about the way Roll Better does it is they don't always give the faction seed for it. I think that's the problem. So
Gotcha. Yeah, let me find it.
So while we get Nick up there, so I'll actually look at the Republic list.
Oh, I got it. I found it.
You got it? Okay. Awesome.
I got it. Sorry. I scrolled past it for a second. Yeah, right. I do remember seeing this. Yeah, so this is a list that features generics, which first off is just like unheard of. It's a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 ship list. 5 Black Squadron Aces and the TIE Fighters. I believe the Black Squadron Aces are there. The Initiative 2s?
3. They're the 3.
They're the I3.
Those are 2.
Got it. And with Tomax with the usual, which is the Sat Salvo, Barrage, and Bomblets, and then Rack, Rear Admiral Chirnu. So this is just a lot of stuff being thrown at you. Is Rack is with Ruthless, Vader, Death Troopers, Agile Gunner, Baffle, and Dauntless. He's basically spending Force to deal damage to you or make you throw away tokens you desperately need. Ruthless to guarantee he gets all the damage that he wants going through. And then you have a bomber that can just alley-oop 3-hit barrage rockets and make you reroll your defense dice. And then how about 5 TIE Fighters?
It's a lot of area denial in that.
That's the only way it wins is because if you just put them in the right place. It's all about talk about turn 0 importance, setup, and where you're putting obstacles. It's the Black Squadrons are great objective fodder, and then you have so many bodies and the large base that you can assault is just such a pain to play against this list. It feels unwinnable almost.
Yeah, I think I don't know. It's different, right? Like this is a different list. They use Darth Vader and Death Troopers. So like they have given all of Rack's points to specifically saying, "Hey, come here and don't leave." like come here and don't take any actions. That's what we're telling you. You want to stress? Then don't leave.
Heaven forbid you take the stress, because you're not getting rid of the Death Troopers, and Vader's just going to pump free damage to you every turn.
Man, if you found a way to kill Rack, though, this list is just so bad. If like you found a way to like jam him and sink some crits in there and just disable him or get him off the board, like this list is not.
Yeah, you know what this list is really susceptible to? Those stupid whispers. I guarantee there was not a lot of whispers ran in that tournament. Because whispers will just go, boom, oh, here you go. Mag Pulse, yep.
Yeah, Malor's Mag Pulse. Yeah, that would give Rack a bad day. Yep.
Yeah.
The fact that you just need to roll a single hit, like you're just like, oh, there it is. Like you're jammed. 0 agility. You get shot by a Mag Pulse and 0 agility. You're just like, I literally just start grabbing the tokens while my opponent's rolling dice, because it's like it's.
Hey, I failed to hit a Rack with a Plasma Torp, and I had one hit on it.
Wow.
It was just constructed. Yep.
Jesus. Well, don't do that, kids at home.
What should have been 4 damage was now none.
We just call that Alex luck. That's what we call that. Like sometimes baby. Alex, it's the beer. Sometimes Alex doesn't drink beer.
Sometimes it's the beer.
And it's because he hasn't had enough beer to make his tournament enough of an alcoholic challenge to actually
but then
win.
If I'm actively drinking, then I don't set up my ship's pride because my beer can's in the way. I did that at Worlds.
All right. So the next list, I also thought this list was pretty unique. Alex, what do we see that's different in this list that we have not actually seen kind of make top points inside of a tournament?
You actually kind of have 2 things here. One, you have CLT Audigalia with Chopper and Debris Gambit, which is a combo that you see semi-frequently. You Chopper, if you're a rock, it becomes white, and you still get your actions. So it's cute. You have SOC Oddball. You have Contrail with Marksmanship, Proton Bombs, Precision Ion Engines, and R4P. Then you have Hawk in the lat, 6-point lat, baby, with 7 Fleet, Agile, C3PO, Corky, and then Slider with Dedicated. And that's... The list can hit 7 Fleet, and Audigalia is actually hilarious. Just to roll a lot of dice with mods, and that's a pretty defensive Hawk with C3PO. But you could also pass out green tokens with Corky, so it's cool. The contrail's wonky, but it worked out, I guess.
Fair enough. All right. The next one we have is Huzzah Hobbies. This one, Duncan Howard. I don't even know. JJ, why the hell did you not go to this one is my question.
I thought Duncan was going to be there.
Well, because I was also sick with COVID, and this is like a 5-hour drive for me. But yeah.
But you weren't sick yesterday with COVID, were you?
No, but I had fam here, so yeah.
All right. Well, Duncan Howard has
5 hours for store champ. Oh God, I don't know.
Well, JJ needs it. He has to get it before I get mine. So
otherwise,
he has to wear Lions gear for like 2 years. He has to wear Lions gear for 2 years if I get mine before him. So
there's no shame with an Indomitian Sioux jersey. Let me tell you.
No Tanner winning a 5-person store champ will not count.
I know. I haven't been to one of those yet, but I mean, technically, we could just hold a 1-person store champ, and then, I mean, like, do you just automatically win that? Like, is that how that works?
Supposed to have.
All right, I probably shouldn't say that in case AMG does ever watch our stream. Like, that
Clip
is not
and send
true.
it to AMG right now.
Stop.
Yeah, right.
We don't actually advocate any of those things. We would not do that.
2-person store champ, though. Let me tell you.
No, that's an Alex thing. That's how Alex got his invite.
Salvo.
Final salvo for
like
a world that might.
You're trying to derail me. I'm not that stoned yet. So, moving on. Duncan Howard has won with CIS, and it is, I think, the exact same one he ran at the other one that he came in second in. I think.
Yeah, over in Atomic Empire. Yeah, he ran this list. Yep.
Pretty sure Nate
So-
May also ran something very similar to this at our store champ at Eternal.
Yes, this one is Django with Notorious, Count Dooku, and Contraband, avoiding the double tap with Django. Zam with Crackshot, Savage Opress, Thermal Detonators, Contraband, and the Slave 1 title. And Dirge with Lone Wolf, Proton Cannons, Contraband, and the Xanablu Dud title, which just allows him to cloak, which I'm sure he probably never used, maybe other than once.
I don't know. He's a big fan of cloaking, so I mean, I'm sure he definitely did that at least in the initial turn.
Maybe. So, pretty cool list. Pretty awesome list. The second list I wanted to cover out of this tournament is another CIS list, and I know you're all going to
I'm
be like, "Oh
shocked.
my god, why did Tanner pick this CIS list?" But it was the most unique list out of all the other top lists.
Oh, there they are.
And this has four you specific style
Expensive
ships.
list.
Who wants this list? Who wants this crazy list?
Oh, I'll take it. 4 rogue classes, baby. You got Dirge with marksmanship, proton cannons, the title, and bombs, the very crit heavy Dirge. You got Cad Bane with HLC, ion cannon, and baffle. Got 2 Magna Guard protectors with the synced laser cannons, discords, and independent calcs, which is my preferred way of loading them out. Then you got Funny Reroll Man. And that's a list people brought. Who do you put the protector on?
That list?
Do
I
it
don't
on
know.
Dirge, just to really mess with people.
Yeah, you
put it on
really want people
C81.
to hate Dirge.
You put it on T81 so that he has even more dice to reroll.
I would assume you put it on T81, so when he's strained, he's still
No.
rolling 3 dice.
But
But-
T81 has to be in the arc of the ships that have the other arc protectors
The
in it.
Magna Guards have to be in the arc of the ship
Yeah,
shooting.
Exactly. Yeah, like it
And
doesn't
that's
work.
because
Not
they're
with that.
renovating.
It's Cad Bane. That's who it is.
Ah,
And they're running like X-Wings. That's what they're doing. This guy's taking this list and running it like an X-Wing list. That's what he's doing. He has 1 flanker, possibly 2 with Dirge, and the rest of them, like, I would actually argue HLC Ion is not the correct choice with CAD. I would probably run Synced and HLC.
No,
But
you can't.
you
If
can't,
it's
that's
sync,
right,
it's
you
just
can't.
sync. Yeah.
Shit. All right. Well, I don't know. I'd rethink that, but with CAD, like that, whatever. They're probably running it on CAD because CAD gets the extra actions when somebody dies.
mhm.
So if you try to kill CAD, it's never going to happen. You're just probably not going to do it. And if you kill one of the other ships, CAD's now double modded for whatever the hell CAD has. Or CAD aligns the HLC. That's in my experience, that's how I've ran that. But I will tell you, it is not a fun list to run when you frickin' double calculate with a stupid Magna Guard protector and you get how many maneuvers that are blue? Oh, 2 banks, right? 2 banks are blue.
And 1 banks. And 2, 3, 4 straight.
Yeah, it's not fun. You don't go anywhere. It's like a T7. It's like it's an X-Wing. It's a T65. That's what it is.
If only
not
you
fun.
control people and put them on the other one, but you can't. They thought of it. The playtesting works.
I don't know. Did I run this list on Nick's stream? Was this on your stream that I ran? Like I ran 5 of them though.
I don't know. I remember streaming a game with Greg. I did commentary with Greg on Nickel City X-Wing, and you refused to play them properly and had them all far apart so
Yeah.
that the protectors couldn't actually be. We were
Yes.
actually worried about your mental health that game because we didn't know what you were doing.
I didn't know how to play it, so I was just like, "Fuck the world."
You like placed the Magna Guard condition, but then like had that ship like literally the opposite side of the board.
yeah, that's
Got
right.
them. Mind games.
Yeah,
There you go.
it worked. It worked.
Yeah,
I won't
I'll
lie and
eventually
tell
get
you I
there.
was not sober that game.
Yeah, we figured. I think we even
just makes you
mentioned,
better
like,
at the
I think
game, though,
Chris
right?
is high.
Okay, so we've told this story before. This is like, man, we are really detracting from this show. But I've told this the way planning phase actually started was that. Just so you know, there was 2 people that got really high and thought it would be fun to record X-Wing games stone. Like, just as an FYI, that is officially how planning phase originally started.
And
Was
you're still going strong, doing the same thing to this day.
Yeah, well, I'm not high right now, but Fuck you, Nick. All right. Dice Saloon. Dice Saloon, a Great Britain. I'm guessing this is Great Britain. I don't.
Yeah.
It's got Cormac Higgins and Ollie in it, so I'm guessing this is a
Yeah, somewhere in
British.
England.
Yeah, a British tournament.
You could also
But-
tell because their lists are confusing.
Yes, but I'm very proud of Elliot Watts, who came in fourth, essentially, right?
Yep.
Because of his fancy CIS list, which I will not cover. I'll let somebody else cover his list. But Elliot Watts is the gentleman that was my last game at Worlds, and that dude is hilarious. And he also has the Alex method of, well, once you aren't going to make top cut at Worlds, you might as well just get drunk. He had me move ships for him. So love that guy. Who wants to take the winner? The winner was Cormac Higgins with his Rebel list that we've all seen before. But who wants to own reviewing the list we've seen a million times?
I'll take care of it.
Oh, go for it.
Yeah. So we got Han Solo here with Millennium Falcon Sido, Piston, Perceptive Copilot, and Trick Shot. Bodic Avenge with Clan Training and Shield Upgrade. Harrison Dula with Swarm Tactics. And then Battle Gavin Luke with his standard loadout there. Essentially, with this one, you're flying Hera together with Bodica to give the Swarm Tactics up to make Bodica a 6. You get to shoot Bodica at I6 at a particular shot or at a particular opponent. And that way, when you trigger Bodica's ability, when they shoot at somebody else, she can just get that deplete after she takes that bonus shot, and then you can clear it with the blue maneuver the following turn and rinse and repeat. And essentially, Luke is your finisher here at I5 as Han, Hera, and Bodica get to shoot at I6. If you set yourself up correctly, you get a proton torpedo into an unmodded opponent and finish them off. Really effective.
All right. Very yeah, like I said, we've seen this list. This it's not a bad list. I don't know. I don't put Trick Shot on Han. I guess that's just not me.
I don't put Swarm Tactics on Hera.
All
Yeah.
right. I would agree with that too. That's not my preferred
Just
style,
take
but
the lock with Mag Pulse. Don't spend the lock. Instinctive aim a proton torpedo and double mod it anyways. At whoever you're shooting. Pass the Hera lock over. It's funny.
all right. And who wants to take the Elliot list that is a CIS list? No one wants to take the Elliot list. This is a pretty fun list.
I'll take it. It's funny. So you have Maul in the Scimitar with Palpatine, Hate, and the title. Actually kind of hilarious when Maul has 4 force. Because you can spend a couple and still then use his ability. You have Hate, which refills everything. It's hard to shoot at him when he can just stress you out. Yeah, but that's his whole loadout is literally just Palpatine and Hate. So he's there to shoot things and then die. And you got Dirge with proton cannons, contraband, engine upgrade, which you don't typically see a lot. It's either like contraband and like a lone wolf, especially in a 4-ship list kind of like this, or you do like the crit one with the marksmanship proton bombs. It's got Grievous with shield upgrade marksmanship and Impervium and Solus 1, and then funny reroll droid. It is a all offense all the time list.
Yeah. Like who do you take objectives with? Is it only Maul? Is it the only one that takes objectives here?
Even then, I mean, he's still only 1 agility, right? So, but he will help the lead ships.
Oh yeah,
Fair enough.
that's a big gun.
All right, the next tournament we have to cover does actually have a few unique lists in it that we have not seen specifically in that style. Misty Mountains had 4 3-1 and 1 4 or 4 4-1 and 1 3 4-0. A very prominent showing for Republic in the top cut here. We are not going to cover the 1 decimator list. but we are going to cover the winner list. Nick, do you want to cover Buried Deep, which I don't know what that synonym means, but he buried it deep, I guess, and won a Star Championship. I guess I should quit drinking.
We can't hear Nick. He's pulling a GSP.
That's fine. I forgot that my mixer has a little mute thing, and I hit it when I was typing, and I forgot that I did that. I know Buried Deep, but I can't remember their name. That name rings a bell. But anyways, they brought a Republic list, and only 2 Arc 170s in this list. That's kind of cool. We got 2 7B Jedi and 2 of the Arcs. So at the top of the list, leading off, we got Anakin with Outmaneuver, R4 Astromech, and synced consoles. Then we've got the Siege of Coruscant, Oddball, and Wolf. Oddball has the Selfless, Veteran Tailgunner, R4P, and Wolf has Wolfpack, Veteran Tailgunner, and Q7 Astromech, probably the least used Astromech in the game. That's legal. And then Mace Windu, such a great value piece at 5 points with Heightened Perception and R4 P17.
So the outmaneuver on Anakin is interesting, though, right? Like, that's not something we always see. And then you have Sync Council. Is the Sync Council just because you have 1 point? You don't know what to do?
Yeah, you have 1 point. You don't want to bring compassion, I guess. I mean, I guess you could take a lock and be by your other ships if need be and pass it off, but probably because you have 1 point left over. Also, man, outmaneuver Anakin. They just point their guns at Anakin, and then that's most.
Yeah. That's the problem with that. I mean, it's like when you would put in Soontir
draws too
in the
much
old
heat.
days. It draws too much heat. It's like, hey, look at me, go after me. You're really gambling on just your opponent allowing you to outmaneuver them. Maybe you get one of, there is a ship that doesn't have you in their arc because you are double repositioning I6. But I don't think it's the most. I mean, it worked in this case, but you have to think of Store Champs as like, this might be a case where this is the best player in the local community, and they were gonna, and the people that are playing, some of them, you have a smattering of inexperienced people that haven't played for a long time, people that are, playing a faction that isn't good, like Scum. Unless it's Alex. Just there's a lot of variability. You're not Store Champs. I think a lot of people like when they look at lists that do well to Store Champ, you have to remember that the experience level and quality of lists in the meta is so vast, and not most things aren't optimized to win. This is a good list, but I definitely, it certainly doesn't stand out as one that would turn heads at a huge national event. I think one of the reasons just because it's only 4 ships.
It's ripped right out of early Republic 2.0.
Yeah, and the outmaneuver thing too, like most people are gonna just go all in on Anakin or just not allow him to. So he's gonna have to play a very specific way with Anakin, where he's not very aggressive. Like he is gonna have to go on the flank and kind of come around and try to flank. And people will just be like, no, you're not gonna do that.
All right.
Do you think Anakin is the objective getter in this list?
No. Why would you?
They just go to try to kill everything.
Because if you,
so you know what I learned, guys, real quick. You know what I learned at Gen Con is that anybody can be your objective getter. Like D took a crate with Chopper and never lost it. Like you just whatever you gotta do. Like it might not be preferable, it might not be your number one choice, but like yeah, sure, Anakin can be the objective getter sometimes in this list. Like
I've taken crates with Lulo before. It happens.
Yeah. Especially if you're running, a list where it's all A-wings and a Falcon or something. It's like, or mostly A-wing, whatever. You're gonna have to have one A-wing take that ball.
They shoot backwards as they 5 straight evade.
Yeah.
I don't know. I have a hard time seeing a 7-point ship that can throw 3 to 4 dice with the outmaneuver being the one taking the objective.
He can scramble. I'll give him that.
All right. Yeah. I don't know.
I mean,
Alex, here you go. This is the next.
Don't need.
You need to run this list for our Nickel City. There you go. We found you a list, baby.
No, it's not enough. Not enough dedicated here.
Nope, it doesn't matter. This is the list you're running. JJ, as a captain, you got to overrule this shit.
At least it'll be something better than a Y-wing.
Jesus.
Well, go,
All right,
go over the list.
The next list, we're going to go through the next list, is another Republic list. This one has SOC Oddball, Sicko with Saturation Salvo, Fives, Barrage Rocket, and Munitions Failsafe, just in case your Barrage Rockets do not hit. SOC Wolf, SOC Jag, and Broadside. And I have no idea what Broadside does, but Broadside has an ion cannon turret dedicated, which is on Alex's list, and R4 Astromech.
Oh, Broadside's actually super legit when he does turret attacks. If it's on his both sides, why he's broadsiding people, you can change a blank to a focus. So
there you go.
It's the most accurate ion turret you can get.
Except for it doesn't help when you have R4. I guess you're just taking a focus. I guess that's what you're doing, is just taking that focus, right?
Yeah. I mean, the R4 just helps with turning. It removes the strain from dedicated a lot easier.
Yeah. I think it's a cool list. This might be your next list that you run.
I like 2 of those.
All right. So we're going to move. We only got a few more. We got a few more, and then we're going to wrap it up. We really need to be out by 11:30 tonight, though.
Yeah.
So Jacktown, Michigan, which is actually just Jackson, Michigan. I don't know why they call it Jacktown, but it's not really Jacktown. Though you do not want to hang out in Jacksonville or Jackson very often. It's not the most fun town to hang out in.
Insane asylum / prison system.
It is there. Our very own Alex took down a store championship this weekend only because Tanner decided not to go. If I had been there, I mean, it might have been a different conversation. But
he would have beat you by 3 objective points, bro.
I had the highest strength of schedule in the
all right,
damn tournament. Okay.
All right, you're killing me. That's whatever. That's very true. There was 2 scum lists. I hate you sometimes. Alex has somehow always had higher strength of schedule every time, or more mission points. One of the two. Like, I don't know. We played in 4 together? 4?
Something like that.
Yeah. And out of the 4, 3 of them we've tied on strength of schedule, but he's always beaten me on mission points. The 4th one, he beat me on strength of schedule, though. So this one I chose not to go to because I didn't think they were going to hand out a search champion invite, so I didn't go this weekend. So.
Can I request that Nick read this and try to interpret what monstrosity of a list I brought?
Yep, just because Nick has said he doesn't believe in scum. But so is JJ. I mean, in fairness, it's not just Nick.
I mean, everyone should not.
Oh, in fairness, it's everybody. It's like you're not seeing stuff getting played for a reason. It's not a coincidence that people just forgot their scum list at home. Like, you know.
But yes,
all right.
Nick, let's torture Nick a little bit here. Nick, what the fuck did Alex bring? And what is this list actually
an
do?
ongoing segment, honestly. What the fuck did Alex bring to the start?
I mean, I see Afron. I already know you're up to no good. So you got Lima Kai with Plasma Torps, R4B11, which, correct me, is that the reroll? Like you
spend a red or orange token to force them to reroll any amount of defense dice.
Got it. Okay. How many times can you do that?
I do that all the time.
It's not charge based. It's literally
it is not. It is just removing a red or orange token, which includes your own target lock, by the way.
Pretty good. Cad Bane with Marksmanship. So that's an I5. So Lima's an I5. So you lied.
Yeah, that's my ace.
There's a high if it's your ace. Lima's ability is also sneaky good. It, like, doesn't come up often but her ability is like before you engage, if there's nobody
if you're not in anyone's front arc.
Anybody's front arc, anybody. I think, is it front arc or firing arc? Just front arc. Right? Just front arc. So you could be like rear arc. No problem. Yeah. You may acquire a lock on an enemy or an object in your front half.
Yep.
So you can just, like, if you just know that you're gonna have like the flank and they're not turning into your 3-point Y-wing, you just focus. You're like, all right, thanks for the lock. A double botted plasma.
I have done that before. Or you like 4K behind their list. Generally, it's when that happens.
Yeah. Super, because Lima's so cheap, I think it's actually going to happen more often now that people kind of boost away or something and then they realize that you just gave them a lock. They just gave you a lock. Bosk, the best part of this list here are 2-point Z95s going on here.
CAD, sir.
Oh, did I in my head I did CAD and then I never said them. CAD Bane with Marksmanship, Proton Cannons, Contraband Cybernetics, Xandu Blood, and Lats Razi. Alex, what does Lats Razi do for the public?
Spend your opponent's stress to change one of your dice to an evade. Actually, very good.
So if you're blocking, I mean, if you can coordinate blocks and stuff, it can actually be really solid, especially, or they're just linking actions, right?
Or you play against Fang Fighters.
So there's CAD. I like the Lats Razi edition. Proton Cannons is good. So especially with the medium base, large base meta, you probably got that off a few times at least.
Yeah. This is the reason that Dirge cannot have the title in Scum. Just so you know, this is the sole reason Dirge cannot have that title. Because Dirge could run Proton Cannons, Lot Razi, hands down, and Dirge would just never die ever.
Yeah, but Scum
also
Dirge is worse, right? Than
it is. Yes.
I beat Scum Dirge at my store champ. It was just like he wasn't able to cancel results because the results that I would roll, he would roll would never work, so that he could do it. It was just like, oh, it's so bad. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I would just roll a bunch of crits because that's what I do. That's actually what happened, Alex. Is I would just roll too many crits.
No, Cad's Bane ability actually comes into play a lot.
Yeah, Cad allows you. So I verbatim, I don't remember off the top of my head, but he essentially can throw tokens at people like red tokens, right?
If
or
you
orange
hit
tokens.
them, you can pass a red or orange token by spending 2 charges.
Yep. So
I've double stressed so many Hans with
Cad Bane. Oh, I can imagine. My Baze Malbus Han would be upset. Bosk with marksmanship and expert handling. Don't count out Bosk. He is the X factor in this list for sure. And then we've got Manaru with expert handling, Gar Saxon Gunner, which basically allows you to spend a red token, or that could be a lock to roll an additional die, or an orange token to roll an additional die. Contraband Cybernetics, Punishing 1, and R5 P8. That one is the reroll droid though, for attacking, right? R5 P8.
And I have knocked my own crit off taking the crit on R5 P8 before.
Ugh.
Because you still take the crit damage.
And then rounding out the list, Dr. Afra. This is where Dr. Afra likes to get close to you and likes to you'll tell me your ability again, because there's a couple of caveats here for it to work.
When you activate, you can spend a green token and one of her 3 non-reoccurring charges to give a stress to a ship at 0 to 1 that doesn't have one already.
Yeah. So can be pretty good. You got to get close. You gotta have the green token to spend. That's why Lando is on there, because Lando allows you to spend tokens to reroll dice as well. So 000 makes sense. You could either give them the stress or you get the calculate you can use for the ability with Dr. Afra. Lando allows you to spend tokens to reroll, and Lando's ability it's for attack and defense, or just attack?
Lando's ability is after you roll dice.
Mm-hmm.
I have spent green tokens to reroll Dengar's dice to kill ships.
Oh wow, there you go. Yeah, that's really good. Dengar Gunner, right? Which basically after you defend, if they're in your firing arc, they might either ditch a green token or you roll a die and they suffer damage based on if there's a damage result rolled, right? So a crit is a crit, a hit is a hit.
1 damage.
Yeah. Is a crit still dealt as a face-up damage card?
Just the damage.
Just the damage.
Yep.
Babu Frick, so you can park some of those bad tokens on somewhere else for a little while.
Or if someone tries to mag pulse my reinforce off, I just throw it on Babu.
Oh.
Yes.
No. See, my Imperial list is just going to shoot at you, so I don't care about any of this. Electronic Baffle and Hounds 2 to round out the list. You got the title there. So let's see. What are you trying to do here? You're trying to make your opponent you're trying to give them things that they don't want. Like, hey, I got this for you. I hit you. Here's this. I'm in your way. Thanks for jam. Later. We'll address that later, but not now. It's super scummy. I love it. It's hilarious. Do I think you're going to beat Paul Heaver with it? I'm not sure, but maybe.
No, this list hits significantly harder than it looks, and there's just nothing but triggers and complicated parts. It mostly just catches people by surprise because they look at that and they're like, "Wow, that's 20 upgrades. That's cool. I'm going to set up over here and we'll figure this out later." Yeah,
they'll just ask you a million questions. So who do you go after? Like, what's the right choice to go after in this list? Like the number one thing to kill. You don't know.
I don't know what I would do against this particular list.
It's not Cad Bane, I'll tell you that.
I would probably go after Afra.
I think Afra is the correct choice, but by doing so, you have to deal with like Dengar.
Right.
which is why I put on there. Originally, I had like Dead Man Switch and Contraband, but Babu really helps against Mag Pulses. And I usually keep Manaroo behind Aphra. So if you are in danger of 4King me, I give you the stress with Aphra's ability. If not, I have Manaroo right there behind me. It's really difficult to flank Aphra the way I fly it. But it's a lot of
2 large
get
bases,
options.
3 more ships beyond that too. Like 2 large bases and it's still a 5-ship list.
Yeah. And a lot of it's just like, well, you get this red token from 000. Cool, I can re-roll that with R4B11. Or I can pull that off with Manaroo. Or I can give you a stress with Aphra for her ability, shoot at you, and then pull it off with Manaroo and roll 4 dice.
I love that you can re-roll Dengar's die, though. I think that's...
Yes. It's very clutch.
For sure.
Really good against bomblets as well.
Yeah.
I've done a couple times where I'm just like, oh, there's a bomblet there. Oh, no, it's doing a couple hits. I'm just going to re-roll that. Cad Bane can pass you stress tokens, which also works for Manaroo. Or double stressing things if you take the 000 stress. I've done this a lot of Hans. They take the 000 stress because they're like, whatever. Yeah. And then I hit him with Cad Bane and it's like, cool, now you're double stressed.
Poor Han. Poor Han.
Oh, this thing eats Hans. This thing eats arcs. It eats most of the things in the meta. It's actually just hilarious. I love this list. It's one of the most fun lists I've played.
It seems
I'm not going to take it to Worlds.
No, you have to. You have to. Yeah. Sorry.
This list is a monstrosity, but it's incredible. There's a lot of really non-obvious things in this list that you just don't realize. It's like, oh, yeah, that was a bad choice I made by giving him this. It happens a lot.
Oh no, that's not good. Oh no. Dude, I'm super distracted by the list to the right of it, though. Your list is awesome, but the list next to it, I'm like, oh,
that was my opponent at the final table. It was a scum on scum battle.
And how much did you win by?
I won by 2 points.
There you go. So that's how close this was.
Went the time.
Juking Captain Seavor. You got the Mandalorian with Razor Crest, Suppressive Gunner, and Beskar plating. Old T with Fearless Clan Trading, Beskar, Mando Optics, and Ben Rao with Fearless Predator, Beskar, and Mando Optics. What?
So we actually played in Chance, which is the worst for my list and probably the best for his list. So it was actually really annoying. And Seavor actually just really messes with specific parts of my list. But that Mandalorian, man, that is a pain because you can Mando ability and then pull off the focus that you converted for Suppressive Gunner. Which I'm not sure if he realized he can do that. But you can.
Wow. I even thinking that.
It just takes 7 of your 10 loadout to do so. That's the problem.
Yeah.
But if it was anything that's not specifically Chance, where I have to take a deplete or I take a damage, I'm not sure if that's the Mandalorian build I would bring. But it was a pain. And he flew.
That chassis is brutal, dude. I just tried. I can't handle it.
It was much better when he had 7 points and double the loadout and another crew.
Yeah, terrible at 7 points. I mean, just hated the cost of him, man.
Yeah, he's kind of basically unplayable now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's why I'm shocked.
Obviously not. I don't know. Like, it gave you a run for your money, baby.
Again, specifically because it was Chance, and I couldn't take extra damage. But no, he flew his ass off, man. He was winning most of the game that we were playing. Like, he only lost mostly because I forced him in such a position that Fenrir had to go over an asteroid and then died from that. From me, blocking him. But no, he flew his ass off. Like, he just crushed it the whole tournament. And actually, the top 4 right there that you see, those were all my opponents.
Wow.
Yeah.
Dude, at Gen Con, man, it was like a boss fight after boss fight for me, dog. It's like every person I played at a World's Invite. Like, congratulations, you beat Eric, you just won his, and then you fight Marcel Monzato. Congratulations, you beat Marcel Monzato, you fight Diyun. Congratulations, you beat Diyun, you fight Ryan Farmer. I'm like, oh god.
And you beat every single one of them. Look at that.
Yeah, man.
The buy, dude, the game with the buy was the closest, man. That had me sweating bullets for sure. Because I got the round 1 buy. I was like, I'm never gonna buy. It was weird.
But yeah, this is No one else will ever fly this scum list. I'm actually literally the only person in the world to fly that combination of ships, let alone those pilots and upgrades.
All right. Well, we're gonna move on to the next one real quick, and then we really got to wrap it up
Yeah.
for the night.
Yeah.
Some of us got to work in the morning. So the next one is out of France. The winner essentially ran Paul Heaver's list, Padme and Anakin with 3 arcs. I'm not going to cover it because whatever. It's a meta staple right now. But Nick, what the next list is a 3-ship, all large base, 2, not just 1, 2, specifically 2 ghost
PCX.
ship. What the hell is this? And would you ever run this? Answer that question first. Would you ever run this? And what the
I'm
hell
trying to
is
find
this?
this on the dock. Where the hell is this? Is that the bottom?
Yeah. It's under Elitican.
I could say the
Yeah, go for it. Say the list.
Okay, so you have Han Solo with hopeful, perceptive Bistan engine title. You don't take Chopper because you're already flying him. So then you have Chopper with Saw, dorsal and veteran turret gunner. And then you have Kanan in the VCX with Patience, FCS,
Oh,
Ion
there it is.
Cannon, Chewbacca, Magva, and veteran turret gunner.
So I could already tell you the reason why this person won 3 games is that they decided not to shoot at Kanan. And Kanan was like, but of course. Would I ever play it? I brought Han and Lando's my store recently and played it, and it was pretty good. It's one of those lists that I would never think to bring to a competitive event. Mainly because the Chopper and Kanan lose out on opportunities to reinforce when they desperately need it pretty often because of range 0. When you bump people, you just can't clear maneuvers, you can't get turned around. But clearly, I would imagine people were trying to joust them, and Kanan played a huge role in taking away offensive power going into the list. If you're shooting a Kanan, you probably just win if you have enough shots going into him, because Kanan can't use his ability, thankfully, on himself. He used to be really expensive. Now he's at least a bit cheaper. He's 7 though, isn't he?
Yeah,
so he's
he's
still
7.
kind of the
still
7 is
7.
a lot still. Yeah,
But he still has Magva on Kanan. That way, like, even if you are shooting Kanan, at least he gets a lock out of it.
right. Yeah, I mean, I think it just depends on if he gets hit with a specific crit or like a blinded or something. But those are things I can control with Merrick, but maybe not most people can.
Just mag pulse him.
So we're just mag pulse. That's the other thing too, right? Is that mag pulses are pretty stock, is I think at an all-time high now. It's amazing how long that card has been out and no one's played it until just recently, but it's very powerful now.
I've been
Especially
yelling
with
at people who play mag pulse since it came out.
Yeah, mag pulses are solid. Chopper dorsal for the double tap is good, so he almost acts as like in a 1.5 ships. Han is almost 2 ships, so it's almost like a 4-ship list with the ability to attack more than once.
Yeah, and Chopper doesn't have Magva because it's on Kanan, so you just bring something else, and that's VTG and dorsal.
Yeah, I like Chopper. I think Chopper actually has a place in the meta right now, which I remember dying on the hill saying the Ghost will never be, have a place in the meta. I just still think that Chopper at 6 points absolutely cannot be anymore though. His ability is great. He just also suffers from I wish I could 4K, but everyone's in my way kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because he's an I2.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you all for joining us. Thank you, Nick, so much for joining us tonight. It was a fun episode. We got to have you on more often. You got to come on like every couple of months or something like that and be like, hey, I still am alive, fuckers. Or something like that.
I'm still alive. Yeah. I still stream. At least.
You do still stream, yes. I actually watch. I like to watch the best stream you do, no offense, is your Jedi Survivor stream. Because I like to give you shit in the chat whenever you stream. And like typically it's a Friday night, so if I'm not doing anything, I can watch you stream on my laptop on my little like folding table next to while I play Diablo or whatever the hell I'm playing. Yeah. So like I can sit there and get I can get turned up a notch. And then I can watch it, and then like I can stop whatever game I'm playing. So like shit talk you in the chat or something like that. Or I,
I mean, I opened
like,
myself for it, man. I posted a YouTube short just today of me raging at Jedi Survivor because I died to the same thing like 30 times and lost my mind, like almost broke my controller. So yeah.
It's because you're playing this one, like you're playing on the hardest level for no reason.
Yeah, I'm playing on the hardest difficulty.
It's
perfect content, man.
It's like when you were running like Han and Luke and Wedge, and you're like, all right, I'm gonna play this. I'm gonna play it on TCS, and then your dice go 0 evades, and you're like, it's a good list, guys. I'm telling you. Don't worry.
No, it
it's
is,
a good list.
dude. Top 16 at Gen Con with it. I beat double Desi's with it. It was a good list.
It is,
sucks
but you
now.
can't do shit on TTS. And like that's like watching you play Jedi Survivor sometime. You're like, I'm gonna play this, and then no. Oh, something stupid happened. Because Jedi Survivor has these weird. It's weird. Like there's this one I can't remember the name of the stupid like enemy, but there's that one enemy that like will come at you and does like so much insane amount of damage, and you have to like break his block before you can do damage to him. It's stupid. It's the dumbest thing ever.
It's a tough game, man. Yeah.
So
You should just play Jedi Academy.
Dude,
Who's
I
done that
streamed the
before?
oldies too, dude.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I've streamed the Jedi Academy.
actually
I
played
did a
that
run
one.
through of it. I've done playthroughs for Republic Commando, for Jedi Academy, for like all the Battlefront 2 Classic, like all the tons of Star Wars games. Friday nights is for those of you guys that Tanner's basically leading into a little promo for 312 Squadron streams Fridays and Sundays. Usually on Fridays we just stream something that's not X-Wing related, just for my sanity and because it's fun, but it's pretty casual and we have a good time. Sundays is almost always X-Wing, and then sometimes when the draft league starts, we'll stream like 3 or 4 times a week. Just a lot of X-Wing. So yeah, check it out. We're on Twitch, Discord.
Yeah.
You should play the pod racing game. That thing was awesome.
all right, well maybe Nick will do that just for us. He'll do it just for you, Alex. He'll call it the
guys.
bench warmers failure to do anything and run the pod racing game, which sucks. That game sucks. I
That
don't care
game is
what you say.
incredible.
I hate that game.
Why?
I hate
It's
that game.
fun.
I lose all the time. I hate the losing. That's why.
It's like my
User
attitude
error.
with TTS. Like I hate that game. I lose all the time.
There you go. Thank you. Like we're on the same page here. All right. Anyway, let's not delay the inevitable. Thank you all for joining us. If you have not followed 312 Squadron, we have their links in the description for the show tonight. You can make sure you go over and support them on Twitch. They do a lot of amazing things, and they also do in-person streaming. So if you are in Nick's vicinity,
Best looking streaming.
or you would like to pay Nick to come stream your games, make sure you get a hold of them. They have a very generous package available for you to be able to go and have them stream your event. And if I were to have anybody stream, I would want Nick to stream over anyone else, because Nick 90% of the time is unbiased in what he streams. Every once in a while he gets a little biased about Luke, but yeah,
It's a little bit.
everybody has faith.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Tanner. Thank you.
Anyway, if you would like to support 312 Squadron, make sure you go over their YouTube channel and go over to their Discord. No, you don't have a Discord. You have Facebook. That's right.
We have Discord.
You do have the
I even just tagged you in it.
That's right. You did. Did you tag me in it? I don't know.
Yeah, we're
I've
doing it
been
for the
streaming.
fundraiser. Yeah.
All right. Anyway, thank you all so much. We'll be back next week, 9 p.m. Eastern. At some point, JJ will not have COVID, and we'll try to stream an in-person game for us, and we will test that ability that we have out once JJ doesn't have COVID, and they have a streaming event in his area.
September is looking like the possibility, if not October, definitely. But yeah, we'll be getting those live in-person games here to you guys soon. So hope you guys have a great night.
And if you want to come hang out with Alex and I, we have the 16th. Okay, the weekend before. The 10th is the weekend before, right? The 10th or the 9th, one of the two, is a store championship in Lansing. The 16th, there's a store championship in Michigan in Livonia.
That's the one I'm running.
Yep. And then the 23rd, there's a store championship in Kentwood, Michigan. And then 2 weeks later, and the week after that, there's a store championship in Ann Arbor, Michigan.
Yeah,
and then the week after that is Michigan GT, again in Lansing. So if you want to come hang out with Alex and I, because JJ sucks and doesn't live in Michigan, you're welcome to come hang out with the two of us, and we will, between the two of us, we will be at every one of those store championships. I will definitely go to the one that Alex is running, since he's already won and doesn't have to play anymore, and it can't beat me anymore. So
get my 000 full art.
I know, it's awesome, right? You gotta love that. Then
The
you can
one
use it
person
in your
that runs
list. Yeah. So, all right. Thank you all. Have a good night, and we'll see you on the flippity flop.
Have a good night.
Bye.